What up, everyone? How you guys doing? Welcome back to another episode of See You Next Tuesday, where we open up the Discord and talk about current events or whatever the fuck we feel like, because that's the show. Today's mostly going to be on Iran, as you can tell from the title. So, if you want to talk about it, join the Discord, jump into the panel waiting room, and do the thing. But I'm going to play the intro, and then we'll get started. Alright, enough of that, guys. Let's switch over to the Discord. So, say what's up, guys. Say hello to the chat.
Hello, chat. This is Sean.
Hello.
Very
Don't
low
stand still
energy.
with food, bro.
Very low energy today. Smokey, anything?
Hey, what's up?
Baze.
I don't know.
I love the energy in this room right now. It's exactly where I need
very
to
good.
be. Oh, what up, Chuck? What up, Michelle? What up, Orthodox? What up, Locksmith? How you guys doing? Christine, what up? But yeah, today we're going over Iran. More stuff happened, so pretty interesting stuff. I think it's at least decent enough to cover for today. Let me pull up my clips and stuff. Any thoughts before we get into it?
I thought we were going to talk about big booty Latina bitches. What happened to that?
I don't know.
They all got deported.
They're all gone,
Yeah.
Damn it.
Man, even military veterans can't hold on to their big booty Latinas. You can read about it in the Texas Tribune. Kind of sad. Anyway, yeah, Iran.
Yeah.
World War III, let's go.
World War III, yeah. So, as most people probably know, we have reached a ceasefire between Israel and Iran, which has been problematic up until now. Like, we have continued bombings that were going up until the very last minute, and some reports are saying that would even exceed that. But we'll pull up clips. We'll hear the president talk about it. Also, what up, Lauren? Yeah, so we'll cover all that, and then we'll get into addressing some of the crazier news of like the bombing not working or the Iran nuclear deal or whatever the fuck. So we'll get into all that. But let me pull this up for you guys. All right. You guys ready? You guys loading in?
I'm ready. I'm inside you now.
Babe.
Well, this should be good. He's by himself this time. That's good.
Yeah. This was this morning. As the title says, breaking news, President Trump says he's not happy with Israel and Iran for their continued conflict.
Mr. President, the Middle East just woke up to a new dawn because of ceasefire. Mr. President, Israel said ceasefire breaking.
I don't think so, but I'm not happy that Israel's going out now. There was one
Nothing.
target,
I already transferred
and
it
now
over.
Israel's going out.
That was
These guys
just
need to
set up.
calm down. It's ridiculous.
Only you can respond if the ceasefire is fired.
I didn't like plenty of things I saw yesterday. I didn't like the fact that Israel unloaded right after we made the deal. They didn't have to unload. And I didn't like the fact that the retaliation was
They didn't
very
have to
strong.
shoot that node.
But in all
They
Didn't
just
have to shoot all these
they
loads.
unloaded. They just unloaded all the loads.
fairness, Israel unloaded
Shot
a
the
lot.
load everywhere.
And now I hear Israel just went out because they felt it was violated by one rocket that didn't land anywhere. That's not what we want, I'll tell you. And I'm telling you, I'm not happy about that, Israel, either. All I do is play both sides. I'm going now, as you know, to NATO. Some of you are
Listen, guys, if you play both sides, you never lose.
Did he say that actually?
Yeah, you just said that. You just said
Did I
that.
actually just hear him?
we'll
did he
we'll go
just
back.
make it
We'll go
all
back.
funny?
We'll go back. We'll go back. We'll hear if he actually says we plays both sides.
That's not what we want,
Can we
I'll
play
tell
that
you. And I'm telling you, I'm
Sunny
not
clip?
happy about that,
Or
Israel.
will we
either.
get?
No, we'd get
All
caught.
I do is play both sides. I'm going now, as you know, to NATO. Some of you are going with me, and I think it's going to be...
All I do is play some play. Like I feel like the next thing he's
fuck.
going to say is like, "All I do is play both sides, so I come out on top."
This is me. This is me coping. Was that AI?
No,
Is this actually Forbes?
this is actually Forbes.
Oh my God.
So yeah, our president's playing both sides, based and true. We will always come out on top, especially if the other side knows we're playing both sides, because we're saying it on
Tell me.
national television.
That's the best thing about poker. When you show them your hand, you're always guaranteed to win.
Exactly.
It's a new dawn in the Middle East thanks to the agreement you managed to achieve. What are your future plans for the region, for Saudi Arabia, Israel, Gaza, the hostages?
Look, you're asking me about women in the Middle East. It's getting a lot better. Things are happening at a high level. As you know, Saudi Arabia's done a really good job. It's coming out far faster than I thought. So we're very happy about what's happening with women in the Middle East.
No, I'm talking about a new dawn in the Middle East that you managed to achieve last night.
Yeah.
The region is going to a new place with
That's
this
true.
agreement. Can you tell us what's your future plans
Yeah.
for Gaza, for the hostages?
It's a new dawn. I appreciate the question. You're very nice. Who are you?
Thank you. I'm Neria Kraus from Israeli Channel 13 News.
Well, we have to have Israel calm down because they went on a mission this morning. I got to get Israel to calm down now.
Did you get to speak with the Prime Minister? Did you talk to Prime Minister Netanyahu?
I think there was a problem, but yeah, I guess.
You
urge both sides not to violate the ceasefire, but reports coming from the region suggest that
Can't remember who fired
sides
first.
accuse each other for violating
Weird.
the ceasefire. So
I think
what
they
is
both
your
violated it.
what is
I
your
don't
next
think
step?
I'm not sure they did it intentionally. They couldn't rein people back. I don't like the fact that Israel went out this morning at all, and I'm going to see if I can.
Also, you also have to remember, Israel claims itself to be the greatest intel fucking place in the world. So, if they can't pull back attacks if they can't pull back coordinated attacks like that, that seems highly suspicious.
Stop it. So as soon as I get away from you, I'm going to see if I can stop it. Okay?
This is
It's this clip.
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I'd never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with it.
The biggest load we have seen.
Israel.
Look,
You know, when I say,
I
wanna
okay,
say
now you
something
have
quick.
12 hours,
Wait,
you don't
let-
go
Could be
out
wrong.
in the first
Well, I
hour
missed
and
that
just
too.
drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that.
Oh, it wasn't the clip. Okay.
But I do want to say though, I feel like it's a tell when he's shitting on Israel more than Iran. He's doing something fucky with Iran.
Yeah, yeah.
So he's probably like said, "Hey man,
Well, he did
we'll do
say
this for you."
he did say that he's playing both sides. So,
I guess I have to go with that then.
fuck. It seems like we're in like a really weird region where it's just like when the ceasefire was called, I think it was very preemptive to call it that at that moment, especially when they were all just like bombing the shit out of each other.
God forbid Trump not take an opportunity to fucking pat himself on the back.
Yeah, he could have waited a couple hours. Could have just waited a couple hours.
I mean, how long did Bush wait? How long did Bush wait until mission accomplished?
A while.
Yeah, at least as long as Bush.
Yeah. So yeah, no, not a great move. Not a great move by the president, and it just seems like it's getting worse and worse. And now he's at the NATO meeting, which is not a great sign when he's saying stuff like he's playing both
wait.
sides.
But he said he might meet with Zelensky, so maybe
might
he'll make
meet.
some.
Yeah,
Oh,
he'll say, "How are you?" to President Zelensky. That's exact quotation, guys. I'm not even fucking joking. This is the weirdest timeline. But yeah, with all of this happening, we have impeachment talks all over again because people are claiming that the attack was unconstitutional. That it wouldn't be covered in Article 2. So we're gonna hear Speaker Mike Johnson respond to some of that, and we'll stop if you guys need to pause at some point, then we'll discuss it.
Yeah.
he'll clear this all up, I'm sure.
Thanks so much. It is about progress, Tony. That's so well said, and I'm so grateful for these fine Americans who stood here representing hundreds of millions of Americans in all their various endeavors. And this bill, the One Big Beautiful Bill, is geared for those hardworking Americans. It is going to help all boats rise, and we are so excited to get this thing over the line. And I'll give you more updates on that. In the meantime, Tony and Paul and Sam and Sheriff Stewart, thank you again for your time this morning. Let me zoom out. We'll just talk about foreign affairs quickly, and then we'll zoom back in on the big, beautiful bill. I know the conflict in the Middle East is top of mind for everyone, and it is for us as well. Over the weekend, of course, President Trump fulfilled what was a bipartisan, long-standing national security priority by carrying out successful strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. Everyone around the world applauded.
Okay, I gotta pause there because, I don't think the bombing was necessarily bipartisan. Yeah, I think that them not having nuclear weapons has always been a bipartisan position, but I don't
think there was a pretty.
I don't think I hear a lot of people talking about bombing Iran.
Well, this is just a policy difference from the last administration to this administration. The last administration wanted to use soft diplomacy and soft power diplomacy tactics. This administration's trying something different, trying something a little new, trying something we've tried a couple of years ago. Depending on who you rooted for, it either turned out great for you or it didn't.
Yeah. Well, a shit ton of tax dollars, but we got some oil out of it, so based, I guess. So
did you get any oil for it?
I didn't get any oil. Unfortunately,
I don't think I got that much.
but we got something, right? Like, it couldn't have been for nothing. We didn't do all of that for nothing.
I think I have a solution to all this.
What's your solution?
It might be crazy. We should bomb Iran again. Maybe it'll fix it.
Maybe, and that's a very real possibility in the future. So, especially with what we're going to be covering after we hear Mike Johnson finish his stupid fucking speech. But yeah, let's let Mike fucking keep talking.
This expertly performed duty by our extraordinary unmatched military. Some of them applauded loudly and openly, and some of them quietly, but everybody except the evil regime in Iran knows this was the right thing to do. It's important to remember who we're discussing
Mike
here.
Johnson.
Okay? Evil
Lauren.
is the right word. Iran is the largest state sponsor of terrorism on planet
Whoa.
Earth. The Iranian regime has been responsible for thousands of American deaths over the years, and an untold number of maimings with roadside bombs all over the Middle East. They have funded and propped up terror proxies like Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis, and their stated goal is the death and destruction of America, and of course Israel. That's why for decades presidents have talked tough on Iran. They've talked tough. President Clinton said, quote, "I believe all the Western nations have an overriding interest in containing the threat posed by Iran," unquote. President Obama, he said, "I have stated that Iran will never be allowed to obtain a nuclear weapon," unquote. President Biden, quote, "We will not," let me say again, "we will not allow Iran to acquire a nuclear weapon." But it was President Trump who did more than talk. He acted, and it was long overdue.
Oh,
And his
God.
decisive action led to a weak
Okay, yeah, we're gonna also talk about that, the Obama deal, because people seem to have this weird misconception of like Obama was just all talk, especially when he laid that out. Or that he was
Yeah.
warmongering. I hear both sides talking about it, and I'm just like, this is super weird that no one understands this. So we have
He did. I
We have
think
a
does he still
fact
have the
sheet.
record for drone strikes?
we have a fact sheet to pull up later for that. We'll go through that.
Fancy.
Yeah. So we'll get into that. But yeah, he did drone strikes, but what president hasn't done drone strikes in Yemen? It's a rite of passage for modern presidents.
Yeah, I feel like if you look at the places that Biden drone striked and Obama, it like lines up perfectly almost. It's funny.
Yeah. So it's not like this is new. We just never actually bombed the shit out of Iran. It's usually like some terrorist organization or something like that. We go under that pretense, not the nuclear weapons pretense. That seems to be a new reason to bomb the shit out of people. But I guess if we're gonna be sticking with that, like I know Republicans are being split on this particular situation, but
Well, hey, do you want Iran to have a nuclear bomb?
no. But there are other ways to.
Right.
There's another way to achieve that. You do that through economic pressure, which I would say was going on before the Obama administration and even during the Obama administration. But that like they shouldn't be disallowed from all nuclear power or any like they're still going to be able to like use centrifuges and stuff like that for domestic purposes, right?
Yeah, I'm just curious, like how much can we hold other nations accountable, and how much can we really know what they're doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, what makes them say, "Okay, yeah, you can check us"? Like, why do they even give a fuck? Why can't they just say, "Kiss my ass"?
Well, because that was the deal that they agreed to at the time. Because when Obama put that in place, it was because we were essentially going down the road of just heavily sanctioning them. And Obama was like, "Okay, if you don't want to face the heavy sanctions, this is the way to achieve that."
Mm-hmm.
And there's like you would have to disclose all these things basically, and like let us know what you have, not build in the future, and then just continue moving on, right? From that point. which was agreed upon. But then when you have Trump pull us out of that deal, they are under like no real obligation to continue that kind of information sharing. So, and that was during his first term in 2018.
It's 40 chest Hornet. He did that so they would enrich the uranium to a point to where he could justify going there and bombing them anyway.
I mean,
40 chest.
it's crazy because we've been. What up, Peace Dynamo?
Actually, I was kind of curious what was going on before all this bombing Iran happened. What were we talking about? Does anybody remember?
Something about an island. That's all I remember.
Something about an island and Musk calling it out.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about that anymore.
Seems that I don't remember. I don't remember what that was. It's probably a fever dream we all had.
I thought we always knew that he was on the list, though.
Yeah, we did. We figured that out through what was it? What's her face's court trial? What's the co-conspirator? What was her fucking name?
Mm-hmm.
The chick that groomed the actual people. What up, Ozzy? I don't remember her name, but yeah, he was on the flight log.
Oh, you mean
I know it.
Ghislaine Maxwell?
Yeah,
Ghislaine Maxwell.
Justine Maxwell, whatever the fuck.
Yeah, Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yeah. Through her court trials, he was on the flight logs. That's how we know that he's specifically on the flight logs 8 times.
Well, when they go on those low flights, whatever, they just keep the crazy stuff in the corner. They don't let anybody see that. It's just an island that they take on.
For sure. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I'm just saying that's the reason we know he's part of the Epstein files. It's just how much involvement does he actually have?
Who knows,
guys?
We'll never know.
We're talking about Iran.
Yeah.
But this is cunt, Smokey. We can diverge a little bit. If you want to get us back on Iran, we'll get back on Iran.
We'll keep listening. Do you really want to hear Mike Johnson speak? Like, I'm torturing chat by making them watch this. But yeah, let's continue. Chat, suffer.
Weakened and vulnerable Iran that gives them no other choice than to come to the table, which they refused to do in good faith before. The president secured a ceasefire between Israel and Iran, and despite of the temporary disruption this morning, we believe that will hold.
What up,
peace in the Middle
Panelverse?
East has never been closer within our grasp, and that is something that we should all embrace and applaud. And we were heartened to see even people on the other side of the aisle, right-thinking, common-sense folks, say that this was the right move. The ceasefire is fragile, but it is very real. I spoke to the president this morning, right before Air Force One took off from the tarmac. He's headed over to the NATO meeting, as you all know. And
what up, Control Break?
We talked about his frustration with the temporary disruption and the ceasefire overnight. And he told me he had just spoken to Prime Minister Netanyahu and encouraged him not to retaliate in any heavy way. And I think that request has been heeded.
Yeah, because Netanyahu has been notoriously known for following the U.S. direction.
They call that ceasefire, and it's like the bratty kid who crosses his arm and kicks up dust and tries to punch it one more time before he's like, okay, I'll stop.
We'll stop. Yeah, but even considering removing that aspect of it, if any terrorist organization decides to act up in a certain way, then it seems like that's justification for them to be like the ceasefire is broken. Because they're putting
they're looking for it,
yeah.
It really seems interesting to me that I feel that Netanyahu is getting mixed messages here. So he's probably kind of frustrated because he's hearing one thing from the president that I'm sure that every Senate Republican that's called him in the past 18 hours has said something wildly different. So I can understand him being frustrated, but I also I can see to a point where he thought we just bombed the nuclear plants. It's all right, let's go full all the way. And then it's no, we're done now. I feel like he has blue balls a little bit, and I can't blame him.
Yeah. And according to a CNN report, which we're gonna read, it doesn't seem like they're being completely honest about what happened.
And we have something that just came up from the IDF. I don't know if this is new. Oh
Yeah,
my God.
the IDF is also confirming some of the things that CNN was saying, which, not great, not great. But let's continue hearing Mike Johnson fucking spew whatever the fuck he needs to spew.
I told the president that I would immediately echo the same sentiment to my counterpart over there and my good friend, Speaker Ohana and the Knesset. I did that. I believe that Israel and the United States are locked arm in arm on this, and that unified front and that common goal is what is going to maintain peace. So I just want to say overall, this is America First policy in action. This is, as has been said here already this morning, the penultimate demonstration of peace through strength. This is what it means. But you got to have a strong commander-in-chief.
I don't think America First means we run to Israel's aid, but I don't know. Maybe I could be mistaken. Fundamentally, that seems to be a contradiction there.
I'm just getting
Well, you
tired
haven't
of
figured out that America First means God has a plan yet?
Well, yeah. But that's not what they use it. Exactly, control freak. We need to figure out what the D is.
Chief to make sure that happens. Regarding the presidential authority, now naturally, of course, we've got some Democrats here on Capitol Hill who they have an allergic knee-jerk reaction to anything that President Trump does, no matter how noble and good. And they of course, are opposed to his latest work to make Americans safer and bring peace in the Middle East, if you can imagine that. Some have even called for his
peace to the Middle East.
It's absolutely outrageous. It would be comical if it were not so serious.
I feel like he's the clone of Polyev or whatever that Canadian dude was.
Yeah.
The strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities were clear.
He is just a clone, but he's like the dark clone.
Clearly within President Trump's Article 2 powers as Commander-in-Chief. It shouldn't even be in dispute. Allow me to put my constitutional law hat on for a moment, because that's what I used to do, because both the law and the precedent are important for everyone to understand here. This may answer a lot of questions that you might ask this morning. The framers of our Constitution...
Never. Ads in the middle of this video? God damn.
Never intended for the president to seek the approval of Congress every time he exercises his constitutional authority under Article 2 as Commander-in-Chief. Alexander Hamilton argued in Federalist number 70, just for one example, that, quote, energy in the executive is a leading character in the definition of good government. It is essential to the protection of the community against foreign attacks, unquote. This is why the framers did not explicitly set restrictions on the president when it comes to using military force. They understood something very practical about our matchless...
Yeah, but... Okay, like, I hate these framer arguments because there's a lot more constitutional law than just the framers, right? Like, we're looking at, like, millions upon millions of documents of, like, precedent that has been set.
You know what they thought about nuclear bombs back then? I'm pretty sure they were around back then, so they can make rules on it. Huh?
Yeah, I don't think the framers ever thought someone was going to get elected 4 times in a row. We have to add that in later, so I don't know.
Legislative body here in our Constitution. The way the Congress was set up, they knew it would be a deliberative body, and they knew that process by necessity would take time. And in an emergent and imminent situation, time is not something we always have the luxury of. And so they wanted, in moments of danger and conflict abroad, for one single hand of authority to have that authority to act decisively and effectively. Now we're hearing some talk about the War Powers Resolution. What is that exactly? Congress passed that legislation in 1973 under President Richard Nixon. It bars the use of armed forces in conflict beyond 60 days without congressional authorization or a formal declaration.
Listen, a lot more than just a ventilator.
A 30-day withdrawal period follows thereafter under the statute. It also requires that the president...
That's the first
Congress
90-year-old
within 48
president right
hours
there.
of use of military force. Obviously, President Trump did that. Obviously, in the modern era with the 24-hour news cycle and social media, nothing goes by unnoticed. This might have made some sense in 1973, but I'm not even sure it was constitutional, and I'll tell you about that as well. Many respected constitutional experts argue that the War Powers Act is itself unconstitutional.
Is he just saying they could have gotten away with it in 1973?
Yeah.
Because no. I'm just.
That's the claim, that since media is so widespread now that you would be able to get away with it, essentially. Which is dumb as fuck, honestly. Trying to frame something that would be unconstitutional, it's just like, okay, then take it up with the Supreme Court. That doesn't matter if you think it's unconstitutional, like, which they'll probably do, don't get me wrong, and the Supreme Court will probably rule in a way where it's favorable. So it's not a hard thing for them to do. Just do it. Stop talking about it.
They think it's a violation of the Article 2 powers of the Commander-in-Chief. I think that's right. If you look back at the Founders' intent, you read the Federalist Papers, you read the records of the Constitutional Convention, I think that is right. And many more scholars believe the President is correct to use this executive authority in exactly the manner that he did over the weekend. I am a jealous guardian of Congress's Article 1 authority. We are the defenders of it here, and we take it seriously, and I always will be. But exercising the authority to declare war isn't something we've done since World War II. And everybody in
exactly. All you gotta do is just do it, Control Freak.
This room knows. Since then, we've had more than 125 military operations, from Korea and Vietnam to Iraq and Afghanistan. They have occurred without a declaration of war by Congress. Presidents of both parties have exercised that authority frequently.
Yep.
A few recent examples. President Biden ordered strikes on Iraq, Syria, and Yemen. President Obama launched an 8-month-long bombing campaign in Libya to oust Gaddafi. President Clinton initiated air patrols and air strikes in Bosnia and a bombing campaign in Yugoslavia. Every one of those actions were taken unilaterally and without prior authorization.
Did we just skip Bush?
From Congress.
Yeah, we had to.
The bottom line is the
we just jumped right over Bush.
We didn't need to. We didn't need to talk about Bush. It's not like anything happened under Bush.
Bush wouldn't be relevant to the conversation right now.
No, absolutely not. Which one?
Either Bush.
Actually,
Bush.
No, actually, just no. Just no, Hornet. Who is this Mr. Bush? Never heard of him.
The military reports to the president, and the person empowered to act on the nation's behalf is the president. The last few days have unfolded exactly as the law outlines and as history has demonstrated and as the framers of the Constitution intended. I'm convinced of that. Let me change subjects. We'll zoom in back to domestic affairs and the one big, beautiful bill. I will say it's very relevant to the discussion about global affairs because one of the things, as you all know, that the big, beautiful bill will accomplish is it will support our military funding. While congressional Democrats feign concern about the safety and well-being of U.S. service members, House Republicans are working to deliver legislation that actually accomplishes that and supports them.
Okay, let's go, dude. Let's cut more veterans. Let's cut more veteran fucking supplies. Let's fuck them over some more.
Listen,
veteran affairs is just fucking it's just so up in the air. They just fucking act like it's not a thing. It's so frustrating.
Amid this global threat landscape, that we point out there's never been a better time for a piece of legislation, a generational, once-in-a-generation opportunity legislation like the One Big Beautiful Bill. This bill funds President Trump's Golden Dome to bolster long-range missile defense capabilities.
President Trump?
You know, that's kind of important right now.
Also, fucking waste of money. Why the fuck are we doing that? You know how much that's gonna cost? You know how much that's gonna cost to run? Fuck!
Yeah, but it
accelerates.
What?
Gold.
Why you sound like such a Republican? Just spend.
We got golden protection. I like it. Listen, I like I like big missiles. What can I say?
I just find it hilarious
Like,
that they bitch about spending and then we're fucking throwing money into like this humongous program that would fucking legitimately take so much money to fucking run.
no, look. They bitch about the spending that they don't want to do.
Yeah,
They're okay with spending stuff on what they want to do.
yeah, bloated, I guess, on the other side, not
Mhm.
bloated on our side.
Listen, defending this country is probably the only thing I agree with about Donald Trump about, and this dome will help do that.
The Golden Dome. You know how much?
Go.
Support the Golden
Jeez.
Dome.
Fuck, dude. How much
You
money
just hate new
that's...
jobs for America, guys.
You know how
That's
much
what.
infrastructure,
Listen,
money, and everything that would take to fucking get a project of that magnitude going?
well, listen. It sounds like a Starbase situation for Texas, like it was for Elon Musk, and I think it'll be okay
Okay.
with no problems whatsoever.
Fuck, dude. I don't know. I don't know. Oh, let's just finish it, this dude.
Accelerates the modernization of our nuclear deterrent. Couldn't have a better time for that. And it revitalizes our defense industrial base. Here's a few specifics. $34 billion to expand the size and
Wait, which aliens are gonna pay for it? Control freak. That we gotta be hyper specific nowadays.
capabilities of our naval fleet. The $25 billion for the
The,
Golden Dome, $21 billion to restock America's arsenal of munitions and ramp up domestic production of rare earth and critical minerals. $13 billion for nuclear deterrence, $12 billion to enhance military readiness, among many other great provisions that I won't bore you with listing. It's exciting stuff. And the one big beautiful bill is a generational investment in
Dude, I was looking into. I just realized what that what is it? The Golden Dome thing
Golden
was.
Dome.
And I was looking at the pictures and stuff. I was like, I almost feel like this is like some kind of dystopian future from like RoboCop and like OCP's running the fucking government. And it's fucking weird.
They want the Iron Dome that Israel has, but American version, so we make it gold.
Yeah, we put Trump's head on all the missiles with a mean mug face going. Ah.
Yeah, that's how we'll show them. Yeah, no, that project's just always been something I've highly criticized. I'm just like, there's more efficient ways of like getting some sort of defense system that would detect missiles coming at the U.S., but to deter them.
They don't even really technically have any they can reach here. Like I think 4,000 is the
Well,
farthest.
and if they do, we've got the Golden Dome. So,
Well, even if we have the Golden
Fine.
Dome, like they could just always attack Alaska, right? Unless we're gonna encompass all of Canada inside of the dome.
That's why he wants Canada. No.
yeah, that's probably why. It's probably that dumb.
It definitely. It could be
Yeah,
just
that's fine.
that dumb.
Sure, why not?
It could just be
Well,
that dumb.
I can't think of any Canadians that would have a problem with that.
I don't know. There's not a lot of people in Alaska. It's like,
Yeah.
You're not gonna have them.
Yeah. But I don't think that's probably not. You're probably not wrong, Control Freak. That does seem like an idea he would get from The Simpsons. Just gonna put a dome over it.
I
But
forgot. Yeah.
let's fuck. I don't know what else to say about Mike Johnson. I just think he's fucking bending over for this administration, and it's just like, geez, dude.
Dude, he reminds me in a way of Mike Pence, but with more personality. He's got the same he surrounds himself with these I was looking into Mike Johnson while we were watching this. He's like some super Christian dude,
Yeah.
blah 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 blah. But he's like just sucking Trump's dick. It's like, is there any conflict of interest in you, bro? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Benny?
What up, Latinos? What up, ABS? Yes, it does seem like a skit, Lauren. This does very much feel like a skit, but it's not. It's real life, and that's the fucking scary part of all this. I'm just like, fuck, are we joking? Like, is this the actual fucking thing? Like, as a dear friend of mine would say, are you joking? But let's move on to the actual substance of the fucking stream, because that's the important part. We're getting to the CNN leak, or whatever the fuck people want to call it, because it seems like we haven't been entirely honest about the amount of destruction we did. I think the term obliterated has been used multiple times by the press secretary and this man right here. So, but as we're going to hear from him talking about it, then we'll read the CNN report. Then we'll actually see what the fuck seems to be the situation that we're looking at.
Yeah, we just gotta be careful because we don't know for sure. But
we don't know for sure.
We could move forward now.
Yeah. But
I think it's been completely demolished. I think the reason we're here is because those pilots, those B-2 pilots, did an unbelievable job. And you know, the fake news, like CNN in particular, they're trying to, they're trying to say, well, I agree that it was destroyed, but maybe not that destroyed. You know what they're doing? They're really hurting great pilots that put their lives in the line. CNN is scum, and so is MSDNC. They're all, and frankly, the networks aren't much better. It's all fake news, but they should not have done that. Those pilots hit their targets. Those targets were obliterated, and the pilots should be given credit. They're not after the pilots, they're after me. They want to try and demean. Iran will never rebuild its nuclear. From there? Absolutely not. That place is under rock. That place is demolished. The B-2 pilots did their job. They did it better than anybody could even imagine. They hit late in the evening. It was dark with no moon, and they hit that target with every one of those things, and that place is gone. But when I see CNN all night long, they're trying to say, well, maybe it wasn't really as demolished as we thought. It was demolished. You take a look at the pinpricks, and you see that place is gone. And I will say, I think CNN ought to apologize to the pilots of the B-2s.
The pilots.
I think that MSDNC ought to apologize.
It's really making an emotional appeal here.
Guys, really, these networks and these cable networks are real losers. You really are. You're real losers. You're gutless losers. I say that to CNN because I watch it. I have no choice. I got to watch that garbage. It's all garbage. It's all fake news. But I think CNN is a gutless group of people, and the people that run it, nobody.
He couldn't help himself. He couldn't help himself there. It was over.
He knows it's been sold so many times, but the people that run it ought to be ashamed. MSDNC, a guy named Brian Roberts, he heads it. He's a disgrace. He's a weak, pathetic disgrace.
Loser.
Oh, did not want to.
I think he's right. You know, we've got to leave this up to the free press and not mainstream media to make criticisms for it.
Yep, the free press. Not AP.
Because not MSLSD. Not the Associated Press.
I have no idea why he went back to the well for that. Like, it was... He stopped. He was just like, is that enough? Nah, it's not enough. Let me unleash some more.
Dude.
Not CNN, not the Communist News Network.
Bro.
Fox News, News.
Why do you even have to ask why anymore? We've been through...
Well, the question of asking why is beyond where I should be right now. But
listen, the only person I need to trust for the administration is that beautiful woman, Catherine Levitt, because every word that comes out of her mouth is golden.
It's the truth, and she would never lie to us.
He has some sizable milkers too, but that's besides the point.
That is beside the point. But yeah, it seems like CNN is reporting on something that which not the only place that seems to be reporting it. The IDF is talking about it as well.
Well, I was thinking about the IDF. They do have incentive to like keep. They want to like. It's probably the military's like we wanted to fucking bomb the shit out of them. I want peace right now. No, we didn't fucking get everything. We need to bomb more.
Yeah.
There's that incentive there, but that
There's
doesn't mean
incentive,
that's true.
for sure. But let's move over and actually read this fucking thing because there's a lot here.
That's CNN fake news. I don't want to read it.
Exclusive U.S. intel assessment suggests strikes on Iran did not destroy nuclear sites. Sources say.
Completely. They said about what? Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead.
Yeah. We'll read a couple paragraphs and then go into it. The U.S. military strikes on 3 Iran nuclear facilities last week did not destroy the core components of the country's nuclear program and likely only set it back by months, according to an early U.S. intelligence assessment that was described by 7 people briefed on it. The assessment, which has not been previously reported, was produced by defense intelligence agencies and Pentagon's intelligence arm. It is based on a battle damage assessment conducted by the U.S. Central Command in the aftermath of the U.S. strikes, one of the sources said. The analysis of the damage to the sites and the impact of the strikes on Iran's nuclear ambition is ongoing and could change as more intelligence becomes available, but the early findings are at odds with President Donald Trump's repeated claims that strikes completely and totally obliterated Iran's nuclear enrichment facilities. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth also said on Sunday that Iran's nuclear ambitions have been obliterated. So, just from that, you guys got anything to say? Or should I just...
Well, there's wiggle room. It says like things could change. Well, we know.
Yeah.
But my question is, were they as obliterated as Pete was during the strikes?
Probably not. Oh, you're in the waiting room? Can someone pull him up?
Oh, shit. Yeah, pull up a special guest.
Oh, give me a second.
Do less work.
What up, Orthodox?
Hi, how are you?
Or, just looking at news and shit, looking at this whole Iran conflict and the excuses we keep using.
Well, I've been arguing with people because they didn't like that I said that this could end in World War III.
Really?
Yeah, mainly Imperius. He tells me I'm an idiot because the ceasefire, and I'm like, you realize you know what probing is, right?
Yeah. Yeah, like I wouldn't disagree with you there. For me, this whole conflict just kind of screams like Gulf War, not really World War.
Well, no. So, okay. In the modern world, the whole system of guarantees and defensive alliances don't really exist unless it's like a traditional alliance that you've had for like 100 years or so.
Yeah.
Or more. And ever since the fall of the Soviet Union and the world hegemon, like that, there's no great power backing Iran saying, we will defend you. So the US, being the world hegemon, is going to throw its, for lack of a better term, dick around. And like they know that we can get away with bombing them. Yeah. Because nobody who's a near peer competitor to us is going to step to us, because that would be the Third World War. And Imperius is thinking that I'm an idiot, and people like him thinks that anybody who questioned the attack is an idiot. I'm like, no, you don't understand. There are still alliances, and it is still in China and Russia's interest to back Iran if a conflict were to pop off.
Yeah, and North Korea as well. Yeah.
And that's what I was saying, and that's why I was so fucking angry and worried about it, because it's like, and then like I even mentioned that this could be a probing attack, because Iran, Persia, whatever you want to call it, is literally built into the side of a fucking mountain.
Yeah.
And they're testing their defensive capabilities. In my opinion.
Yeah, especially if this report seems to be correct that a bunker buster wasn't enough to actually remove the...
It was like 4? Was it 4 or 6? That it wasn't just one.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. That our attacks wouldn't necessarily be able to like completely dismantle them.
And wouldn't Iran have some level of knowledge about how far a bunker buster would go, and then they just still dig deeper?
Yeah.
Okay. So in military technology, there is no near peer competitor for the U.S. because we're 20 years ahead.
Yeah.
Of even China. But in manufacturing and ability, because like just because you're 20 years ahead doesn't mean you can't lose a jet, right?
Yeah.
Or you can't get your equipment shot down. It just means that it's going to be more efficient and better. So the tech boost that we had versus the goat herders is gone. So Iran, it may be a backwater. It's maybe a backwater, but it's not a shithole compared to everywhere else we've been fighting.
Oh, for sure.
So it's just poorer. It's just poorer than we are. It does have educated people that understand modern technology, modern tactics, and they do have a sophisticated air defense system. That's why Israel wasn't able to level them like they would anyone else. It's not just that it's built into the side of a mountain, because there are flat and valley areas where their industry is built where that could have been attacked. And Israel did attack that industry. Israel did attack civilian targets and infrastructure.
Yeah.
But it still ultimately failed, and they lost a lot of jets because I don't think people understand just how small the number of actual vehicles the military actually employs. And it's a lot smaller than in the movie.
Yeah. It's never going to be like a full on scale. Like in terms of military tech, we are highly advanced, but we do not have the numbers. Like let's say China has just surpassed us in like naval ships. So like we just don't have the numbers on our side, but we do have the technology on our side.
Well, we're gonna fuck around and find out, like the Germans did, that technology is great and all.
Yeah.
When you're not fighting a near peer competitor, and that manufacturing base is what's gonna matter.
Yeah.
Because if they can blot out the sun in 4th generation aircraft, then that means that they can still shoot down all the 5th generation that we have.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like China has been flying in equipment since the 12-day war started. They've just been going with cargo planes, shutting off the transponder and landing at like the airport in Tehran.
Yeah. What up, Just
So this whole thing, like it shows how stupid people are, not only on the Panelverse or whatever. Like if you don't see that this is a probing attack, to see where Iran is at and see that they devastated Israel. Israel lost this war. Make no mistake. Like Netanyahu's approval is down amongst both Israeli Jews and Arabs.
And the American public in general as well.
Well, I'm just focused on Israel right now, you know, because like their economy now, this has crashed their economy. So like this was done. This was an Israeli surrender. And for all the people that are saying Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, and all those people like Steven Crowder did a victory lap saying that they were stupid, the reason we probably didn't get more engaged and this didn't pop off was because of people like me, them, and general people who are MAGA and who are pro-American, who voice their opinion saying, no, don't do this. This is retarded. This is stupid. All the backlash is probably why Trump didn't fucking push to continue forward. Because you see how it was all gung-ho as we're going to help Israel.
Yeah.
And then you see how he claimed that, we destroyed it completely. And then ever since he made that claim, him and the government and the military has walked it back and walked it back and walked it back to the point now that the centrifuges aren't even broken.
Yeah, for sure. And I completely agree with you. I think that's pretty much in line with how Trump has behaved in the past, right? When we look at like the immigration stuff, when he was doing the raids, when they were just arresting random ass people, he moved back from that position. He's like, we're only going after criminals. We need to stop freaking out like the general public. He does this with the tariffs. Like this has just been a consistent thing with him, that he always like tries something and then moves back to the point. But the problem is now that we have another nation involved, I don't know if Iran or let's say any of like the major terrorist organizations would react in some way that would pop this off in another way, right? Like let's say like Hamas or Hezbollah decide to actually attack Israel, that would pretty much put an end to the ceasefire and then just give Israel carte blanche to basically go in and fuck shit up, which is not going to play well for like.
I don't think Israel's capable of actually doing anything outside of, because this battle that they've had has caused them to lose the momentum in Gaza, right? Like they're now, instead of being on the offensive, they're now getting their shit pushed in by goat herders and civilian militia because of this two-front war that they opened up.
Yeah.
And Hezbollah has not even gotten. I hope I don't get in trouble for this, not by you, but by other stuff. I've done a lot of research into Hezbollah, and like so I've said this because I'm speaking from experience, right? The Muslim terrorist groups that are in the Middle East, the reason the threat for sleeper cells is real is because Muslims treat these terrorist groups, like Muslim countries, they treat them, that's their Delta Force. That's their special force.
That's generally, like, I've heard a lot of people argue that Hamas isn't necessarily, like, the representative, but then it's just, like, you hear so many people, but, like, it's a split. Like, I have seen, like, the arguments for both sides, and I've seen, like, a lot of, like, how they question these people and, like, how it goes along, and a lot of people do condemn these organizations. The problem is, like, my issue with this whole situation was, if we were trying to achieve a regime change, what's to stop any of like any of those organizations from basically filling in the hole, the power vacuum there?
You're not going to do an Iranian regime change. That's not going to happen. It would have to be an internal civil war that we back. It's not going to be a color revolution. Won't work.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It would require boots on the ground. It would require a lot of work from the U.S. military. And at that point, that's why I was like adamantly against this, because I was just like, if you want a regime change, then yeah, that's the only way I could possibly see that happen.
You galvanize the moderate Muslims that are willing to work with you and seeking diplomacy. You galvanize them into extremism, and that's kind of like, you create 5 terrorists a day. We learned that by fighting an insurgency. The only way to beat these people, the only way to beat these people is to go total war and do it the old school way and actually remove their numbers. If you catch my meaning. If you actually want to win in the Middle East, that's the only way to do it, because these Middle Easterners are in a total war survival mindset. They have a total different way of thinking.
Yeah, I just think that when we breaking down from, like, a lot of people would just call this a religious war, and I think that's just always just like, if we're doing something in your sovereign nation, I don't really give a shit. It's not really my business as an American to fucking be like, you can't practice Muslim extremism or anything like that. As long as it doesn't
about religion.
Well,
it's not about religion.
Well, for some people it is. Like for this basically boils down to a religious fight between Israel and Iran, and I'm just like, that doesn't seem to be consistent with anything that the U.S. has been involved in.
See, here's the thing. It's not religion. It's an ethnic blood feud that has existed for thousands of years. That will continue to exist as long as Israel or Iran or any Muslim country is being favored by the outside world over the other. It will be a problem. These people have fought. Now now we know about this blood feud through the lens of religion. That's why you think it's religion. But this is an ethnic blood feud. This is a brother war that has never been able to be ended because it's always had some outsider's nose stuck into it.
I agree. I agree. They're like, but you can't refute the religious components to this as well. Like, that's the problem is, like, I'm not saying that
there's also an economic component.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a technological component to it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. People are going to be coming to these, like, conclusions through whatever like system that they're looking at, right? Some people are arriving at these conclusions through a religious lens. Some people are arriving with like again an ethnic ethnic lens or an economical lens or just territorial expansion lens, right? Because I would say that Israel's a pretty good spot to be in for like actually navigating some sort of control in the Middle East if you're have an
So the
ally
Greater
there.
Israel Project. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
You should look it up. The Greater Israel Project is the end goal of Zionists.
Okay, yeah, no, yeah. That I just don't like going down the Zionist arguments because it's just like
Well,
this
that's
is
not
hard.
it's not a conspiracy theory.
It's not about it being conspiracy theory. There's just a lot more in practice that I see when it comes to global like global negotiations and global like peacemaking.
Zionism is a very powerful ideology both in America and is, and the end result and the end goal of Zionism is the Greater Israel Project. And in fact, you can actually see the Greater Israel Project. You can see the parallels in the New Century for America, which Denison talks about on my streams. The countries in the Middle East that we hit for regime change and specifically, you know, to tie the noose around China and Russia and whatnot. Those countries in the Middle East are also specifically mentioned in Zionism for the Greater Israel Project.
Yeah, but the issue is also that you're also facing some sort of like economic parts of that, right? Like the reason to go into Iraq wasn't necessarily through like we invoked what was it, Article 4 to basically be like there was a terror attack on us so we could basically go in and do whatever the fuck we need to. But it was an economic war for sure, and I don't think anyone contests that to this day. Like as many people try, like it that's what it boiled down to. I would say that Netanyahu has had a role to play in a lot of these like conflicts, but that's always been like an issue for me where I think particularly he is a very bad actor when it comes to like negotiations with these places, because again, like I've been hearing about these nuclear armaments since like the 90s in the Middle East, and I've yet to see one produced, so or any intel that would suggest they're producing them, right? So if we're 30 years in, like I just don't know if like I can see anything that would be significant to push me the other way.
Well, our own intelligence agency came out. This is why I say that this was a strike done to test their defenses, to test the potential for Chinese or Russian involvement, and it was to test the wherewithal of the Iranian.
This was a test.
And it is unfortunately a test that Iran has passed, because guess what? We didn't damage their nuclear program. We set them back a month or two. That's like somebody dropping a beaker worth of a fuck up.
Yeah, I think if we continue reading this, it says about 3 to 6 months. So like, but that's nothing, right? Like ultimately on the grand scale of things, that's nothing. But we also have to consider that this is early intelligence. We don't know the exact amount of damage that has been done.
We also didn't hit none of their uranium, their enriched uranium. They moved it all.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you failed to say.
The whole reason that we are not at war with them right now is because we warned them that we were going to strike these sites and allowed them to evacuate their people, and they gave us that same courtesy when they retaliated.
Correct.
That's something that's something that happens when you're two nations that realize that this could be in a larger war. So again, that's no more evidence for this could lead to World War III, because you don't do that unless you're trying to avoid war, but you're trying to maintain that air of sovereignty. You're not just going to be able to get away with this. You damage our equipment, we're going to damage yours.
For sure, but I would think the Iranians would be if we're gonna cause a world war, I would see people being way more gung ho than this. China has already been like, we're gonna be taking a step back from this situation. We condemn America's actions, but we're not gonna necessarily jump into this. Russia did throw. Russia did
believe that.
Yeah, Russia did throw their hat.
That.
Well, Russia did throw their hat in the ring, being like, "Yeah, if you need nuclear warheads, we'll supply them." But that was like the concerning aspect to me. But I have a hard time believing that this would be the cause to World War III.
That was actually North Korea. They're going to help them build nukes. Apparently, it was the Russians that said that Tehran has every right to develop nuclear energy for the civilian sector, and they said
you ought to be
build reactors.
Instead of Russia, you ought to be looking at Turkey.
Well, see, here's the thing, right? So Turkey is the fifth column within NATO when it comes to the Middle East, because I don't know if many people know, but Turkey and Greece have gone to a war with each other, and they're both NATO members.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of inter-conflict between NATO members when it comes to Turkey and Greece. So Chuck's right.
Yeah.
But by and large, the issue that we are facing, for one, war is always deception. And war is deception, and you can never trust any nation that says we're going to pull back, because Trump said we weren't going to strike Iran. So it's just diplomacy 101.
Well, he never explicitly said he wasn't going to strike. He was
exactly.
He never explicitly said that. So like my issue is that I agree with you in certain aspects, but I think war has always been really profit motivated. For at least most wars that have happened. What up, Toxic Angel? When we're looking at even like the any of the world wars, it has always been some sort of economic fashion of like trying to figure out where you fit into the world. For this one, I just don't see the signs of that. I do see like a Gulf War erupting. Don't get me wrong, and a Gulf War would be detrimental to us.
You do know that China gets 89% of its crude oil from Iran, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the economics for World War III are right there.
It's not just that, though.
I disagree.
It's not just the oil.
Do you think an industrialized nation like China would let you choke, or an industrializing nation, a growing giant, would let you choke it from its oil supply? The whole reason Japan attacked is
because the whole point of China is not to become like, they have understood that they're not going to become a military like leader. What they're doing is going through the economic sectors and actually applying there, because that seems to be their strongest point.
No.
Yes, it has been. Like
they're trying to build a middle class so that they can fund military.
No, I'm
expansion.
saying in the world market, not in the internal markets. In the world market, they're actually trying to just outcompete everyone. They're a manufacturer at this point that is outcompeting on everyone. Go for it.
China isn't, like, to be fair, China isn't getting 90% of its oil from Iran. Iran is selling 90% of its oil to China. In terms of oil exports to China, Iran makes that actually a very small amount of China's complete oil consumption. Like, China uses an astronomical amount of oil. It's not even funny.
Yeah, especially with the deregulation on a bunch of their industries. Yeah, that logically would follow. But that's even beside the point. That's what I'm saying. Like they're operating on a whole other level where it's just like, yeah, they could have gotten involved in the Ukrainian war. That would have been beneficial to have a stronger partner up north. But they were like, fuck no, we're not going to do that. They've been playing the waiting game for a long ass time, and I don't think that this conflict is enough to actually set them off. What up, Fluzzy? Also, I don't know if I said that. So for me, like that's gonna be like the distinguishing factor of like trying to figure out if we're gonna go into a world war. Like the issue is that Russia's kind of all over the place right now, and that's kind of like the issue that I follow, where I'm just like, fuck, if Russia gets involved, then it's a conflict between Russia and the U.S. So we're going Vietnam style. And that would be more detrimental to, I think, the U.S. like capacities versus like.
Russia doesn't have
What do you think would happen? Because the exact number is 20%. What do you think would happen if someone attacked a supplier of 20% of U.S. oil? What do you think we would do? How do you think we would react?
U.S. oil. It depends.
They would get the Saddam treatment.
It depends on the situation. Like there are like why would the EU put economic sanctions instead of just being like, fuck it, we're gonna bomb the shit out of Russia? And why wouldn't the US just be like, fuck it, yeah, we're backing you because we are NATO allies?
Well, Europe as a totality is going against U.S. interests with their trade deals with China. That's kind of why the U.S. and Europe are at each other's throats, even under Biden. And there's been a cooling off of relations between NATO members.
Well, no, in most cases, it's the Europeans that are setting those things in motion.
That's what I'm saying.
The sanctions in motion, not the U.S. The U.S. is actually as actually not been as upfront with China as we possibly could, and it has been in both interests. Now, currently, when we had the tariffs and everything happened, and the strength of the U.S.
The German military literally told the U.S. today that they need to take off more and more U.S. troops from Europe in its entirety, so that they can then justify
absolutely. But that's our current events, right? Not in the past. This is just what's happening right now because the trust in America. Well, the
5 years there's been a cooling of relations.
Well, no, it's not in the last 5 years. It's literally just been during this administration. We saw so much havoc wreaked within the first 6 months of this administration that every nation. Then why is South Korea looking to China to buy military supplies? South Korea has been one of our best allies. Well, they have been one of our best allies, but this is all happening. Yeah. This is to demonstrate that this is happening at rapid rates, not just over 5 years. This is a rapid thing that's happening because of the way that our trade has been established in the U.S. They have no confidence in us anymore.
Or just maybe by nature of capitalism, you have to sell more fucking goods. And the U.S. produces its own military equipment, and all the NATO allies that could possibly buy from Samsung has bought from Samsung. Now they're extending their market into China.
No,
it makes perfectly logical sense.
No, because there's even talks in the EU to move to a different type of armament, so they wouldn't necessarily have to follow. This all happened. I was watching it live, them talking about it, because the confidence in the U.S. has dropped. I actually have a cunt episode about it, because I was watching it as it was happening, as they were talking about it.
Whatever excuse they want to give for it, right?
You can call it an excuse, but I'm saying that's the rapid deterioration of U.S. alliances.
The whole point of the EU is to have a federated Europe, with its own military, with its own laws, and we're seeing, and that means kicking out NATO because they no longer need NATO. This has been going on since the 80s.
They don't want it.
Now they have their reasons or their excuse, quote unquote, to do it.
We're the biggest contributor to NATO by 51%. All of them combined. We are just like below the 40. We're at the 49% line, and they're at the 51% line.
Okay.
We are the biggest contributor to NATO. The reason why NATO functions is because we're in it.
It's because of us. It's because of us, yeah.
They do not want the U.S. to back out of NATO, But when we have a president that is saying, hey, I'm thinking of backing out of NATO, they have to consider another option. You understand that, right?
They wanted NATO for the longest.
They all want NATO. What are you talking about?
France doesn't want NATO. They haven't wanted NATO since the 90s.
You can leave NATO. You understand? You can leave NATO at any point. No one's forcing them to be in NATO.
Well, why would they?
If they don't want to be part of it, then
why would they not take economic advantage like Europe has been doing?
Well, exactly. Why the fuck would they give that up? Why the fuck would they give that up? That's my question to you. Why would they give up the 49%?
Anymore now.
They do need it. They do need it.
We are a failing empire.
Like, I hate this failing empire shit. We are still on top of the world. We are still fucking doing the best fucking, we are still #1 market.
I admire your patriotism, but you need to see the facts. We are a failing empire. We are in stagnation. It is not Trump acting an ass. Trump is acting an ass because we are a failing and stagnant empire.
That's not true. Like, if it was stagnating, we would actually see signs of stagnation. What are the actual signs of stagnation in the U.S.?
Open your eyes, you would.
Oh, what are the signs? Like, I'm asking you to give me an example of the signs.
I don't know. Maybe the fact that our allies in Europe don't want to be a part of NATO. Maybe the fact that our allies
they want to be part of NATO. They still want to have NATO even if we leave. You understand that, right? NATO doesn't go away when we leave. NATO still exists. They just have to continue on without us.
So
which would be
are we NATO, or does NATO exist without us?
No, NATO exists without us. NATO is the coalition between all those nations. It's a military coalition.
So the previous statement that we are NATO makes no sense then.
No, I'm saying we pay 49%. We are contributing the most. I'm not saying we are NATO. I'm saying we contribute the most into NATO. So it's not beneficial for NATO to be like, fuck you to the US. That would never happen because that is like legitimately cutting your arm to spite your face.
That's
cutting your nose
to
cutting your nose to spite your face.
Doing it since the 90s. France has been doing it since the 90s. Germany started it about 10 years ago. England is about the only country that really hasn't questioned NATO because that's an extension of the Anglosphere. Turkey basically uses it to further their interests in the Middle East and Europe and are kind of like antithesis to other NATO countries, just like they tried to hold NATO hostage over Sweden being admitted into NATO, or was it Sweden or Finland? I can't remember. Whichever one of those countries it was. The simple fact is NATO is not black and white. There are plenty of reasons for them to keep NATO around that benefit their individual interests. But by and large, because of the entire purpose of the EU, which they're getting closer and closer to implementing, at least in mainland Europe. I mean, hell, even Brexit was kind of a wash. So I mean, like they're not in the EU by name only over there. And like the simple fact of the matter is they're federalizing their military, or at least at bare minimum, Western Europe and the EU, the other EU nations in Eastern Europe are coming close to having an alliance military command structure where they have a shared military. So they don't need, like you said, they don't need NATO anymore.
They do
and as
need
soon
NATO.
as NATO becomes irrelevant, They need NATO because Russia would curve stomp them without the U.S. Yes, they still need NATO for that reason.
If they would, because Russia would curb stomp them if they didn't actually organize, right? Like that's the whole reason that any superpower could basically come into Europe and be like, "Fuck you."
Mark my words. As soon as Russia is no longer a threat, if the Ukrainian war, which it's probably not. If the Ukrainian war pops off and it's not World War III, but we destabilize Russia and Russia collapses, mark my words, within 10 years, NATO and Europe will be fucking finished. And by us bombing Iran, we scared the fuck away of South Korea and Japan.
For the longest time, you understand that NATO was around even in peace times when there was nothing really going on in Europe, right? NATO was still a thing that they still operate because it still is functionally good for them because it allows them to have some coordinated military that they can operate with at times of emergency, because that's what it's for. It's just an insurance plan for whatever the fuck is going to happen. If a nation decides to leave NATO and then decides to attack the rest of NATO, the other nations will reply in kind. It's not just about Russia. It's not just about... It's literally a coalition of countries that came together and were like, we're going to set up a military alliance and basically be like, okay, if anyone attacks us, we will fight alongside them. So, no matter how I cut it, no matter how I look at this, there's always going to be a reason for NATO to exist. Even if the US leaves. But the reason why they're talking about the US leaving is because we have been very vocal about the US leaving. Is that their preferred method? Probably not, right? Like, I think you would agree that losing 49% of, like, your take-home would be pretty fucking detrimental to anyone. So, like, I just don't see how this is a problem that would be, like, World War III adjacent. For me, this conflict, yes, it could have ramifications that could lead up to, like, something like the Vietnam War or something like the Gulf War, right? Those are, like, really real possibilities. But when we're talking about World War III, there's not enough,
all the World War is multiple conflicts around the world breaking out at the same time.
At the same time, yeah. But
it's like World War One wasn't World War One until it was. World War Two wasn't World War Two until it was.
With aligned partners as well. That's a qualifier for it.
Well, here's the thing, right? If Russia's at war with Ukraine and Ukraine is backed by Europe, and Iran is at war with Israel and is backed by China and Russia, and if China invades Taiwan, which is backed by the U.S., does that not then become a world war?
Not necessarily. Those are three different conflicts. Doesn't necessarily...
Three different conflicts that are happening
at the same
aligned
time.
Partners. Yeah, at the same time with aligned partners fighting each other.
Yeah, but it would not...
So
I don't think it would meet the qualifications for, like, calling it a war. Because I think it has to be a large involvement from multiple nations, not just, like, the three heads that are just gonna... Because then we would be able to say the Korean War and the Vietnam War were world wars. Because it was both America and Russia fighting in multiple fronts, and the Chinese as well.
It was a purely proxy and regional conflict.
Exactly, but it's not for these situations. It's gonna be Israel versus Iran, right? It's gonna be Ukraine versus Russia, and it's gonna be China versus Taiwan. Those are already proxy wars for us. All three of those would be proxy wars for us.
We're already dude. If they invade Israel, we will have boots on the ground in Israel. Just like if they invade Taiwan, we will have boots on the ground.
Yes, that's still a proxy war. You understand, we had boots on the ground in Vietnam as well. Boots on the ground doesn't mean it's not a proxy war.
My brother in Christ, when you're fighting with boots on the ground and you have to mobilize and have a draft, that's a full-on war.
That's a war, for sure. It's not a world war. Because otherwise we would qualify the Vietnam.
When you're fighting two wars in different geographical areas.
Okay, so now we're moving into different geographical areas. Okay,
that matters. Vietnam was fought in one geographical area of the world,
and Korea at the same time, right? It was two very different areas that we were fighting in.
No, we fought the Korean War, and then Vietnam broke out.
We had we had both going on at the same time.
Jesus Christ.
Like, one happened and then the other broke out, and we fought both on both lines. We even backed away, and that's what I'm saying. That would be the qualifier for a world war, and that doesn't seem to be anything that remotely would be called a world war. because it didn't have the number of other nations being involved. So yes, America might be getting into multiple conflicts. I would agree with you there, and that's bad. But that's America doing that. That's not the world doing that. That wouldn't be the EU deciding to take arms against this.
It would in World War One. It was only Europe and the Middle East that really had any fronts.
Yes, but how many nations were involved in that?
Most countries weren't involved in World War II until the very end, where they just started jumping on the bandwagon for good trade deals.
Most countries,
like Latin America, for instance, Brazil and all those Latin American countries declared war on Germany and Japan for good trade deals.
Yeah, like, for sure. It didn't start off as a world war, but it turned into one, right? Like that's how that works.
And that's what I'm saying. If we start fighting in Taiwan, Israel, in the Middle East, if we start fighting in the South Pacific, the Middle East, and Ukraine isn't dealt with, it will quickly spiral into a world war. Will it not? Do you think it won't? Because we're already seeing North Korean troops in Russia.
Yeah.
This is literally me telling you.
And CCP soldiers. To be clear, also CCP soldiers, right? Because
I'm a China shield, so I can't say that.
Yeah,
I like Xi Jinping.
Yeah, but CCP soldiers have been found and cursed as well, dead soldiers to be precise. But that's what I'm saying. Like in that conflict, yes, we already have multiple nations being involved in that, and I wouldn't qualify the Ukrainian war as a world war because we have that many people. Now, when we're fighting 3 battles all at once, yes, I start to lean more into a world war, but I think when we're establishing a world war, it's going to be like an all-out conflict directly between these nations, right? Where we're going to be seeing China versus America directly, not through a proxy of Taiwan. That's the reason we're doing it, but it's through some sort of like one nation wants the other, or the other nation's the
clarify, a proxy war is where you do not have boots on the ground. You are using someone else as a proxy to fight. Once you have boots on the ground, it is no longer a proxy.
Well, for sure, but we call it a proxy war.
That's the chat who's saying that I realized I was wrong and swore. No, I'm not wrong. Vietnam and Korea are specific conflicts that happen in specific geographical locations. In fact, if you want to know the truth about it, the way we structure our command structure in the U.S., it happened under the same war theater, which is Asia or the South Pacific, to be specific.
Yeah.
Now, Chuck can tell me if I'm wrong because he's a Vietnam vet, and if he tells me I'm wrong, I'll accept defeat.
What was the question?
That's not really a question. If you weren't paying attention to the conversation in your mind, Chuck.
Well, I was just parking my car. I had to get out. I missed the last part of it.
I done forgot where we're at, having to go do all that shit.
Let me ask a question though, because I'm curious. Like, what is the matter of the distinction between like a world war versus whatever? Is there something peculiar to a world war that's like, oh shit, is this like a cascade effect kind of thing? Like, what are we talking about?
It's direct conflict.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's direct conflict. So when we're talking about a world war, it would no longer be we're just like trying to save one specific section. We're actually trying to go into China, Russia, or like
total war.
Yeah,
total war.
Yeah, that's gonna be the escalation to a world war. That's gonna be the qualifier that I'm gonna be looking for.
What do you think's gonna happen? Because China is definitely within the next 5 years going to make a move on Taiwan, either politically or militaristically, and it's looking more and more and more likely militaristically.
I feel like I've heard that a lot. I feel like I've heard of that a lot, but China has always been like brazen about how they want it. But that's Xi Jinping's stated goal, right?
Well, no, it's been even before Xi Jinping.
Well, no, like, he says he wants Taiwan to be part of China in his lifetime, and the dude's like 70, so he ain't got a lot of time left.
So, like, I mean,
so yeah, I could agree. China might want to be emboldened by that, but you also have to consider that China's market is, at least on the world scale, like if they decide to go through with that and face the I always say this, like if America decided to go to like full on war with someone and the rest of the world like was just like, I'm willing to take the bite out of like the market just to fucking be like, fuck, we have to fight against this, then America wouldn't stand a chance. If the rest of the world all decided, fuck it. Because the sanctions would just bleed us. Because we'd be essentially nothing, right? The issue... Go ahead. Oh, okay. I would say that the issue that I see with China is that they would fall to the same situation of if they are sanctioned to all hell by doing something crazy like Taiwan, because it has been stated on the world stage that if they do this, that it's gonna be a bad day for China. It's not just the U.S. saying that. They have multiple UN councils about this multiple times. Every time China decides to show off its new fighter jets over Taiwan, they always have to go through the security councils.
Which is basically toothless because, if I'm not mistaken, both Russia and China are permanent members of the UN Security Council, and every single member of the UN Security Council that is a permanent member has vetoing power over any bill in the UN.
Right.
Yeah, but if most of the nations,
all those nations constantly use that veto power to destroy any resolution that goes against their interest. The US does it.
For sure.
UK, France, Russia, China, they all do.
But
that's why the UN is ultimately
do you understand that them having Taiwan would be a national... Wait. That would be a national... That's a national security issue for multiple nations, because now not only are you just all semi... Yeah, exactly. That's why they would they would never vote to like against that. They'd be like, yeah, we're sanctioning the fuck out of you because that's responsible for most of our technology.
You would lose travel through the waterway if they
two
took
votes
Taiwan.
is not enough to veto. Otherwise, Russia wouldn't have been sanctioned by the UN. You understand that? Yeah, like they are. Like we can say that the sanctions don't.
The sanctions by the UN, right? They're only de facto because the what is left of the allies have decided to make it national policy to sanction those countries.
If it
wasn't for national policy to sanction those countries, that's why if you actually look at the sanctions, it's not UN sanctions.
It's the country itself.
It's those countries. So
for sure, I agree with you. And basically the UN
your mentality has been born is something that is based off something that is dying. This golden age that we've had after World War I and World War II is about over. It's been almost 100 years. Golden age based on Keynesian economics is just going to get thrown out of the window. And all I'm trying to do is warning you over the storm clouds. You can believe me or not.
I typically agree with the assessment that we did have a golden peak after World War II, right? But I also see
the US.
But I also see the other things that have happened in the US, like moving us off the gold standard. Is like I agree when Flo says that shit. Like, yes, that's probably one of the most beneficial things that has ever happened to America ever. It put us as a powerhouse of economic. We control the central trade of everything. That put us at a position where we're a hyperpower. We're not even a superpower anymore. We don't compare to China and Russia. They're on the level below us.
The issue with that,
they aren't.
The issue with that is our entire economy is now based off debt, and once that debt gets called in, once that debt and hyperinflation finally come back to bite us in the ass, then we're going to be the lowest of any country in human history.
There's no way they could call the debt in.
Yeah. Because
we just tell them to fuck off.
Yeah, since we're the central trade, since we're the
central. What do you think that's going to do for the stock market when we tell them to fuck off?
Wait, since we're the central.
What do you think that's going to do to world trade when we tell them to fuck off?
Well, no, because they have to trade in our dollars. That's why they use our debt. That's why they
don't
buy
have
it. They do.
dollars. The
They
whole
do.
point
They,
of
that the
whole
market
point
is
of
set up
BRICS
that
trying
way.
to get rid of this. And the whole point of BRICS, dude, we already see India and Russia conducting trade in their own countries with each other. We're already seeing the decay and the chips and the cracks in that system. It's not going to last forever. And
Yes,
it's
but
on
you know
the way
what?
out
You know what
because
they
of the way
trade
the
in?
US is acting.
They trade in U.S. dollars. Even when we're not involved in trade, we are still involved. That they're trading with our currency. That's
So
that's the whole point.
When Russia and India trade specifically in rupees
Yes,
and rubies with each other,
they have to. Yes, because they transfer that over to USD. That's the whole point of them buying debt. Otherwise, they would make Otherwise, there would be no sense in buying debt. It's basically just to be allowed to actually enter the trade market. We have cornered it. That's where we're at. America is literally in the best position that it could ever be, and people always rule it as like, this is the worst time of Americans, blah blah blah, or this is the worst America. And I fucking sit here and being like, what's so bad about America? It is literally at its height. I don't see any other nation performing like we do. Manufacturing in America is higher than it's ever been, even though we manufacture in other ways now, but it's not like manufacturing is completely disappeared, right? We have the most amount of oil. Go ahead, Chuck.
Manufacturing in the United States is weak at the moment.
It's higher than it's ever been in a U.S. history.
But in certain aspects. But if push comes to shove, we don't have the basic manufacturing that we once had.
No, we have
more
manufacturing.
We don't have the manufacturing to actually win a world war. That's why it's been U.S. policy for the past two administrations. Even Biden continued Trump's attempt to bring back manufacturing.
Even during the World War, we didn't have the manufacturing possible. What we did was we converted. We converted factories over to be like, this is what we need to do.
Yeah, we don't have those factories to convert now.
We do. We still have manufacturing factories. I don't know where this myth came from that America isn't manufacturing anymore. We are manufacturing at a high fucking rate. We're just not manufacturing low level shit anymore.
Compare our manufacturing per capita to.
We're a service industry. We're not a manufacturer.
We're not a manufacturer. But we're a service industry because we decided to fucking put our hat into the ring and make the US dollar the central trade currency. That's why we're a service economy. But that does not remove that we are still producing at high levels. It's not as high as China. I'll grant you that. I'll grant that any day. But it's not like America has moved back from its manufacturing roots and been like that. That's why I don't get the fucking talking point that America's manufacturing is dead.
What you're not seeing is your argument is like saying, well, we have more people in the U.S. than we've ever had in the U.S.'s history. Okay. That's kind of irrelevant because, as populations grow, you're going to have a certain amount of economic growth.
Yes.
Just because you have to compare manufacturing per capita to what it is now to what it was in the history of the United States. Just because bigger doesn't mean that we're doing good. We are not.
I'll tell you right now, if we needed to, I'll guarantee we could manufacture everything we needed. It might take a week or two, but I'll guarantee you'd see manufacturing plants pop up everywhere.
Well, we're seeing that with the national security necessary. The only thing that worries me is the steel thing you and I were talking about.
Yeah, that bothers me big time.
Steel, aluminum, and rare earth materials. Because here's the thing about rare earth materials: they're not rare. It's the ability to process them that is rare.
Yeah, even looking this up, just looking it up real quick. We are still per capita better than we were in the past. Per capita.
If you say so.
That's just stats. Like, that's the thing. Like, it's because I actually was just like, maybe it's not per capita, but I do know we're overproducing. The thing we're producing is just not
making the basic necessities.
Well, yes,
we're
doing advanced manufacturing, which is
Right.
which is a bit different, right? So obviously, yeah,
Correct.
I would agree with you there. That we're not doing the basic level of manufacturing anymore. But that's because we don't need to operate in that anymore. That doesn't seem to be that doesn't seem to be the market that pays.
In the current system, probably, where, world peace is happening and the extent of our military necessity is anti-piracy action and putting down terrorists, sure, you're absolutely correct. But as we shift to a bipolar or a multipolar world, which we are, the manufacturing necessities of basic manufacturing is going to have to increase. And we are seeing the absolute stupidity in the U.S. by not subsidizing and pushing for that. Now, we have seen an increase in that with both Biden, because Biden did not stop the Trump administration tariffs. In fact, in some places, it increased them. It also increased subsidized. It also, at least with the chip manufacturing, it expanded and continued subsidizing, trying to get them to come over here and create the chip plants.
Which would just be more advanced manufacturing. That's the thing. We're already at a high level. We want to produce more of the high level. We're not going to the basics. You understand that, right? We're going to the high level actual manufacturing. Because
so you're looking at the statistics. What specific industrial goods are we producing? Because I've looked into this myself.
Every one of the steel companies, I think, is foreign owned now.
Because here's the thing: when you say high tech manufacturing, that doesn't really tell me anything.
Advanced manufacturing. So it's specialized.
Advanced manufacturing doesn't tell me anything either.
Well, it's specialized manufacturing. So
that's the production.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to get to. Like, if you let me get to it, I'll get there, right? So advanced manufacturing is just basically when you're going to be doing specialized parts. Like, let's say you're pulling let's say a specific section of a computer needs to be built, like where one section would be built by like the overall nation, right? We specialize in these like smaller chips, or doing these things, or moving towards, like, in cars. I think it's specifically what was our car fucking thing? I think it's like the Axis or something like that. I just don't remember what exactly it is, but I do know that we are producing. It's just we specialize in our trade now. We don't do like textile.
And do you know the lessons that we should learn from human history? That is ultimately going to be a shitty thing. Because here's a fact. Here's a matter of fact. In the colonial era, Germany and mainland Europe moved into specialized manufacturing for their time and made bukus of money for about 150 years.
Yes.
They were on top of the world. They were great.
Yep.
But then conflict started happening. There wasn't even world wars. Conflict started happening. Other countries started developing their manufacturing sectors. And that specialization made them fucking poor as shit and caused a bunch of cascading effects. That is what led to the economics for World War I and World War II to break out. So this specialization, at the end of the day, is bullshit. Do we need a portion of our economy specialized to making shit like chips? Sure. But we also have to have a basic manufacturing base. But
I agree. I agree. Don't get me wrong. I do agree with that. But the issue is I don't understand the talking point of America doesn't do enough, because they're like, yes, we do a lot. And yes, more factories would be good for us, for sure. But like, obviously, if we're going to be like making textile factories, that's not in the investment of the American people. Most people don't want to work that job, but that literally does nothing for us. Other than we would be self-reliant there, and if you're only if that's your only point, to become self-reliant, then yeah. But That's not how the world operates. Even if we move into a multipolar economy, we would still be seeing world trade because that's how the world operates now.
There's always been world trade, even when countries were.
Yes, but not at the rate that we trade now. No, we're even remotely close.
Look, I'll be waiting on my apology, and I promise I won't say I told you so in about 10 or 15 years.
Okay, Orthodox. We'll jot it down.
Hey, would the porn industry be considered manufacturing? It's like $97 billion.
The porn industry? Fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
That would fall under entertainment, so no, it would not be a...
they ought to drop them with a machine gun right where they are.
Listen, but if you count sex toys, that's still manufacturing.
That is, but they're all probably made in China.
Yep. Or Vietnam. Even though they detest porn, they export it.
Yeah, like most countries.
Have a bunch of degenerates across the ocean that'll buy it.
Yeah.
I remember there was a food company in a little town in Illinois that used to make most of the combat.
Thanks for coming up. Or I don't know if you're leaving. I didn't hear you exactly, but yeah, I always love having these fucking conversations, especially like here, where
it is pretty based. I don't like being in an echo chamber, so it is pretty based.
Yeah, that's why I go over to your guys' panel or like right wing panels to like argue my points, just because I'm just like I just like being in like a more. I like being in areas where there's conflict with the idea that I'm saying, other than just being like, yeah, I totally agree with you.
Well, I mean, I consider myself a centrist, to be honest. I'm gonna be real with you. Like, I'm an unapologetic natsock. My ideology is not empowered.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Yeah, you're a national socialist. I know what you are. Don't lie to me.
Oh no, National Socialism plotted on a graph.
Yeah, I know.
It's literally everywhere. It's mainly centrist. unless you're a Führerist, then it's extremely totalitarian. But like the Führer was retarded, and I'm not German enough for the Germany club.
True.
I need a blood test there, Arthur.
Did you watch the debate between Ninetales and Avius that I had on here?
I did not. I wanted to, but
socialism and communism. I thought you and Bumpkin would be like appreciative of that.
I'll share. If you DM me the link, I'll rewatch it and we can.
But are you not a form of a socialist yourself, Hornet?
No, I'm a capitalist through and through.
It's so weird. He's the most capitalist motherfucker I met. He makes me go like, what the fuck?
Can you guys take over the show for a second?
Sure, he got to go pee.
I mean, like, it's weird because like whenever communists start talking about like people shouldn't have private property or communal property, I'm like, of course, please, that wall over there, it's very beautiful. You should look at it. You should look there.
I was like having a thought about communism the other day. It's like how fucking unsustainable it is. So you're telling me your main goal is a classless, stateless society that somehow is self-contained with no borders or some shit like that? I'm like, unless you were to implement that on a massive scale and everybody was agreeing to it, it's like, why even bother? It's fucking crazy.
It's retarded. Their ideology, their communist ideology is nothing more than to replace the current system with whatever communist demagogue is.
Everybody's sharing everything, but as soon as you do that, we'll take all your fucking shit again.
Well, see, here's the thing, right? So communism, in my opinion, from my study of history, communism and capitalism, they're obviously not the same, but there's two wings of the same bird. The same motherfuckers that rule you through the oligarchy and capitalism are the same motherfuckers who are the high members of the party in communism.
Yeah.
There is no outing those people.
Yeah.
My thing is National Socialism, and this is what me and Bumpkin fight about all the time. If you ever watch my stream, I say the state exists to benefit the people, and he's like, that's gay, that's gay. The state is the people. I'm like, nah, dude. The people exist by and large of themselves, right? They are a group of people that work together, build a society, right? And all the state is the organization method for that.
But wouldn't that feed
That's
into
where the
Bumpkin's point?
socialism and national socialism comes from.
Yeah, I would say that would feed into Bumpkin's point, though. Like, that you would still be,
Well, I mean,
then technically you are the state, but that's the whole distinction of finding that line. It's just a
Well, he thinks the state has the right to like curb stomp the people, and the people have to bend to the will of the state. I say the state has to bend to the will of the people.
I would agree
look
with
out
that.
for the people's
Yeah, I would
interests,
agree with that.
not the other way around.
But to a certain degree, right? Obviously, it's the
Well, that's
consent
why
of the majority. So
that's why under National Socialism, yeah, if you were a non-citizen or an enemy of the state, you got your guns taken. But the vast majority of people, even if they weren't members of the Nazi Party, got to keep their firearms if they were German. Under fascism, like actual Mussolini fascism, everybody, just like under communism, got their guns taken unless you were a high-ranking member or a member of the paramilitary.
yeah, I just like personal freedom. So like typically, that's why I lean more into capitalism for my shit. Where I'm just like, yeah, free markets to a certain degree. Yes, I do think markets should be regulated to a degree. Don't get me wrong. But I think the free market is one of the most beneficial things that could happen within an economic system. It puts you on top for a lot of things. So
I tend to agree. However, I think wherever there is here's where people get like National Socialism confused with communism, right? Is wherever there is something that becomes a necessity in society, like vehicles, right?
Yeah.
There should be a government ran not for profit. Their job should be break even at minimum. If they can turn a profit. There should be government owned competition against corporations to keep corporate greed in check and to keep corporations from making shitty products and just being shitty in general.
I agree.
That's what Volkswagen was for the car manufacturers in Germany.
But you also have the revert.
I've seen the Hitler houses and I've seen the Volkswagens when I was over there. He had a grand idea, a house for everybody and a car for everybody. The problem was everybody got the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also the issue that we saw with like Stalin's lottery system, where it's like, yeah, you would get commodities, but
is the illusion of choice by being able to choose 50 different brands of toothpaste that are ultimately the same thing better?
Listen, I need to know what 9 out of 10 dentists recommend. Okay, I need to know that, Orthodox. If you're not okay with that.
You know what? It made me think of like it's
What up,
Christmas
Dave?
Day, and like you got 10 brothers and sisters, and you all go to the Christmas tree, and you all got the same fucking toy truck, and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah, but see, like all the only difference in what you guys are explaining is you get the same toy truck, but you get a different model, right? One's a Ford, one's a Toyota, one's a color. It's dumb. Like if you're poor and that's all you can afford is everybody gets the same shit, that's okay, you're happy to have that, right? But if you're wealthy and you can afford something better, this is also where National Socialism separates from communism and capitalism. If you're wealthy and you don't want the Volkswagen or the shitty paper cutter house and you want to buy something that's better, you should be able to buy that at a decent price without getting fucked over in taxes.
Yeah, National Socialism is just super has the.
People don't like
the
it.
Ideas. Yeah, because yeah. I agree with you. That seems to like ruin the stigma for that. Which fair, right? Because it does inherently go through a nationalistic aspect, but at the same time, it's just like, yeah, most nations are going to be looking for their best interests. I don't think that's necessarily unique to particularly one nation. So. But ultimately, I go more into capitalism just because I prefer more freedoms over less.
I like freedom too, but not freedoms. I don't give a fuck about your freedoms. That's retarded shit.
Yeah.
Us retards gotta have something.
Yeah, we need one thing to work on.
So you want to argue for the right of abortion? You want to argue for the right to say dumb shit?
I do argue for the rights of abortion, and yeah, no, dude, I'm a liberal. You know I'm a liberal. So like, yeah, I'm arguing.
By all means, say dumb shit, but don't be a traitor. Don't actually take that dumb shit and actually try to hurt your nation.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of people would at least give me the credit of being patriotic to the U.S. Like, I do not shit on the U.S. I do shit on our leaders. But that's part of being an American. I have to criticize the person in charge, and if he's doing a bad job, I have to state that. Because I don't think it's about falling in line, but like the nation itself, I love America. This is the best fucking place for me. Like I don't think there's.
Dude.
I think I'm making the NPCs in your chat spurred because I'm an open national socialist. That's always my favorite part. Where they're like, "You don't believe what I've been told by the government that I hate."
I do have one question though for everybody here.
What's up?
If you were to pick a nation that wasn't the U.S. to functionally pretty much run the world, who would it be?
Ooh,
if you had to choose.
That's a hard choice.
So I have a cop out, so I'll go first. In my like National Socialism, being a National Socialist, and if you believe the propaganda, you might not believe me, but this is like an actual core tenet of National Socialism. Every people have the right to sovereignty and self-determination. So I don't think that any one nation has the right to police the world. Right?
Well,
he's saying like if you like, I get that you don't want to, but I personally, I think America is has been pretty responsible with. Okay, well, for me, America has been pretty responsible with it up until like the 2000s. It seems like we're just fucking up a lot. And even if you want to like criticize the Vietnam War, it's just like, okay, like I can see the merits behind an economical system that would be detrimental to what you're building.
It wasn't a war, by the way. Not for us.
Well, it was a conflict for us. It wasn't a war for us. Yeah.
1945 was the last time the Congress declared war against anybody, and that was Romania.
Yeah.
It would be special military operation, eh, Chuck?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I've been to places I never wanted to go to, trust me.
But yeah, for a country that I think would, like, I don't think there's one country that I would pick. I think I would go towards the European Union, just because of the amount of countries that are involved there.
That's not a country. That's not a country.
No, Chuck, the European Union exists to form a federated state, kind of like the U.S. in Europe. That's their purpose. So for all intents and purposes, you can label it a country.
I would say that it's such a mixture of countries that they would probably be more responsible. But if the U.S. wasn't involved, right? But with the U.S. being a thing, like I definitely think the U.S. is the one that should be calling the shots for a lot of it.
You know what? Since I don't like doing cop outs on these things, I think it's gay. I will throw my hat in the ring. I think we should choose like a small and like irrelevant country and give them all the power.
Madagascar. Wait, no.
I was thinking more like Benin or like one of the Nepal or something, one of those Tibetan Himalaya countries.
Like an actual country. Listen, if we're doing a small country, I'm giving it to the McDonald's Islands. I think the penguins deserve a chance.
Well, there's penguins all over the world, though.
But
no, seriously, who better to mediate than an irrelevant country that does not care about expansion, that lives in such a traditionalist area, a traditionalist lifestyle that's isolated. Who better to mediate that?
Crab.
The Sand people in South Africa.
Crab, the problem
That little
is,
tribe.
if Australia's in charge of everything, you're going to start sending your animals all over the place, and that we don't want that.
Yeah, we don't want their animals. That's for damn sure.
Yeah,
I do. I think we need more Steve Irwin's. Crikey. I'm gonna shove my thumb up its bum. Like, I think if all men acted like Steve Irwin, if all men started acting like Steve Irwin,
yeah,
but
but
you
you want more stingrays? That's the question, man. If we get Australia, we get more stingrays. That's harmful to us. We lose Steve Irwin.
Every time I go to like an animal museum or an aquarium that has the touching stingrays, I ball my fist up and I go to punch, but then I realize Steve wouldn't want that.
Yeah.
I just want to remember, Steve, you still got shooters out here, all right?
Oh fuck, dude. Yeah, I don't know if there's like, yeah, I think a smaller country would have to be necessarily given a chance at that point, but I don't know what small country would have the best interests at the moment. Just because there's just so much.
I would say Tibet, but it has to be a country with
Tibet.
Not a lot like you. I would say Tibet, but China, as my love for the CCP, it does not allow me to say that. I'm contractually obligated to not recognize Taiwan or Tibet as a country.
And being squished in between fucking India and China is probably not a good place for the world leader to be.
Right? No one picked Russia. Come on now. It's a big country.
No. Never.
You know who I keep forgetting about, though, because they're on the other side of the world, is Australia. I keep forgetting about those guys.
They exist.
See, Australia doesn't exist. It's a fake country. Anyone that tells you it's real is a liar.
It's still a prison colony. They still got that streak.
Yes, I know that it was the joke, guys. Come on, don't take it fucking so fucking. Oh my god,
it's a joke, not a dick. You don't have to take it so hard.
I think we turned Georgia into a penal colony and sent everybody there. Yep.
Georgia, we found first off, my home state, Georgia, started off as a penal colony. Okay,
I know.
That's why we're so violent and retarded down here. It's like steel sharpens steel. You either got to be smart or strong. You're gonna die. We don't have a lot of intelligence. The heat zaps that shit away and makes you angry.
Oh, that's a fact. That's a fact. I lived there for a year and a half in Georgia.
Yeah,
intelligence is not their strong point.
Meh. I'm smarter than you are, and I'm from Georgia, old man.
Yeah, come see me, big boy.
Hey, remember, ambush tactics work. You should know.
I got a half-acre pond. It's amazing what's under that water.
Listen, as long as you guys record it, as long as you guys record it, I'm fine to watch this.
As the FBI raided me again.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten my yearly knock. I haven't talked about mustard gas in a while.
Jeez.
Has anybody here ever been arrested by the FBI?
No.
Other than me?
No.
I've been questioned.
Okay. I can see that with you.
Yeah, that seems to strike a logical point.
Well, here's the thing. It wasn't even the old Nat sock thing. It was an unrelated matter, and that's all I'm at liberty to say.
My lawyers have told me not to talk about this moving forward.
Is there anything we else needed to touch on about Iran? I totally forgot about that shit.
What about
well, we were on this report, but basically
ceasefire.
Not very long. That's why I was getting through the report, because it was just like, because it seems to be insinuating that their centrifuge is like largely intact, and that the uranium wasn't even affected. So it seems like the job that we set out to accomplish was not accomplished.
Well, we gave them a heads up so they could move it.
Like, I was gonna read through the whole article, but like overall, the assessment here is that through like satellite imagery and trying to figure out like how their facilities work, it doesn't seem like we did as much damage as we think the president is saying we did.
Yeah, we'd have to go back.
Yeah. So there may be more news forward that their nuclear the centrifuges are actually completely destroyed. That may be true, but it just isn't confirmed at the moment. And I think I think that's the big issue that I'm taking from this situation, that the president has been way too eager about saying shit and not letting things play out as they should, right? When he called the ceasefire up, right? They were still bombing the shit out of each other. And I was like, guy, you can't be like, you can't one foot be like being like, hey, we got a ceasefire, everything's perfectly fine, and then fucking Israel's just launching missiles into Iran, right?
And he seems like he's more on edge than usual. Like he's really fucking like something's not going right.
Yeah, because he did curse this morning at that reporter.
Saying, what the fuck are they doing? I thought that was like a clear sign that the president is stressed as like, and I don't blame him. Like he's going from this conflict up into the NATO conversation where it's basically
this week or next week.
He's already there.
My lawyer told me that I'm not allowed to discuss Israel because of my conflict of interest.
Well, I got a B-21 bunker here. I don't know if that does any good or not.
Fun fact. I actually support the state of Israel.
Yeah, I know. I've heard you talk about it. That's why I would be giving you way more shit. But
yeah, but see, I support it for base reasons.
But yeah, like for this particular situation, it's just like he's moving from one super extreme situation to another, where now he's gonna have to negotiate some, because unfortunately, like the MAGA coalition is starting to see some cracks in it. I wouldn't say necessarily like fractures, because I don't think anyone has like actually fractured off yet. Other than that Mike person, what was his name?
Mike Lindell.
Yeah, Mike Lindell.
I mean, I feel like there might be an initial reaction, then the cope will set in, and they might just like fall back in line.
Yeah, like Marjorie Taylor Greene did with the big beautiful bill, or this situation. She seems to be going
from
back.
Georgia.
Yeah, she's. I think she's just right. She's right outside of Atlanta, representative.
That's what I thought. I told you them Georgians ain't too bright.
Space lasers.
I don't know. For as much dumb shit she says, she very intelligently won her fucking thing.
Yeah, no, she has a pretty tight coalition.
Race from there tonight?
Huh?
Anybody know?
I haven't actually looked into it. I'm gonna look into it after stream, because I don't think the mayoral race isn't like important to a lot of people. I want to know who won, just because it seems like a candidate that I wasn't considering has kind of been making headway today. So maybe there might be something there, but I'd probably cover it for the next stream.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Today was just gonna be Iran focused, because I was just like, there's a lot going on here that is just like all over the place. What was this one? Oh yeah, this is the reporter being asked about the destruction of it. And I was just gonna basically like show that they seem to have a weird line right now where they're just like, trust the president. Yeah. But I'll play. I don't know if you're watching, Chuck.
Hey, we got some new news we got some high res pictures now that's saying that we fucked that shit up.
Did we?
We'll have to vet it though. But I don't think we have time for that.
Oh yeah, we'll bet that later.
I got to jump right quick, but if you guys are still going, I'll jump back on in a little bit.
We're probably going to be going for another 50 minutes or so. So
Always good talking to you, Chuck. I was gonna bounce, but actually, I like this conversation, so it's all good. I'm gonna.
Yeah, you're good, dude.
I do like talking, but then like, I had something that come up, and then they're like, "No, never mind." I'm like, "Ah, fuck it."
Yeah, I get it. But yeah, just click into the stream that I'm doing in Discord so you can see the video we're playing.
Quick follow-up on something. You quoted the president as saying it was my great honor to destroy all nuclear facilities to stop the war. As far as we know, the bomb damage assessment has not been done. The Joint Chiefs Chairman was talking about how long it might take. Do we have something more conclusive about destroying all of the nuclear facilities?
Well, a conclusive comment for me would be coming from the President of the United States. I have great admiration for you, Andrea Mitchell, but I think he might know more than you do at this point, more than I, more than any one of us here. At the same time, obviously, the information that we receive, that the American people receive, which will be public, will take some time. But President Trump has indicated his pleasure at the success of that raid, which obviously was very limited in scope. And that's a very good point, I think, at when it comes to the nature of what's occurred, and I'm pleased that the president is pleased.
Like, what was that answer? Like, what the fuck is this? All I heard was president, being pleased, blah, 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 president. I'm glad for the president. I don't understand why this is.
I don't like this lady.
Yeah.
I base that solely on. I feel like she is a Zionist because she said that she's from the greatest country except for Israel. You know, Israel's better than America.
Second to Israel, right, or something like that. I think I saw that clip.
That has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. That's like literally. No, like you're literally the spokesperson for the State Department saying that shit.
Yeah. But yeah, it seems like there are a lot of public officials that are really strong on the Israel talking point. So seems to be on both sides too. So what was this? That's the same one. Okay. This is the regime change thing, because I don't know if you saw Ortho, but last week you covered it. He was asking for a regime change. Mm-hmm. So, like, today he was asked on Air Force One if, like, is that what you still want? And we'll play the clip and
clarify what you meant when you mentioned regime change in your Truth Social post the other night.
Which
regime change? Do you want to see regime change in Iran?
No. If there was, there was. But no, I don't want it. I'd like to see everything calm down as quickly as possible. Regime change takes chaos. And ideally, we don't want to see so much chaos. So we'll see how it does. You know, the Iranians are very good traders, very good business people. And they got a lot of oil. They should be fine. They should be able to rebuild and do a good job. They're never going to have nuclear. But other than that, they should do a great job. Which is exactly where I've been saying for years, you cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. But we're going to be with, where's Marco? I think Marco's here someplace. You know, our great Secretary of State. But we cannot let them have a nuclear weapon. They won't have a nuclear weapon. And I will tell you, the last thing on their minds is nuclear weapons. They don't even want to think about nuclear. And our B-2 pilots made this all possible. They had a magnificent hit in the dark of night with no moon, no light, no nothing. They hit the target perfectly, wiped it out. And the press is very disrespectful. I saw CNN fake news going, well, maybe it wasn't a perfect hit, it was perfect. They said maybe it did destroy it. We agree, it did destroy it, but maybe it could have destroyed it more. No, it couldn't have destroyed it more. Everyone hit. And it's very disrespectful to those great geniuses and patriots that flew those planes through tremendous danger. So CNN and MSDNC are a disgrace. And so are the others. I mean, they're pretty much all a disgrace. But
Yeah, so obviously we were reading through it. Obviously, it didn't say that they destroyed it or anything. Like, he's just making claims off the top of his head. But yeah, he seems to be really leading into this like obliteration talking point more than.
Was this today?
Yeah, this was today. This was earlier today.
Because I noticed everybody but him is trying to walk those claims back now.
Yeah. So it seems like he's just making he's just trying to stick on to it. I think it's just desperately trying to get a win here in a very trying time. This has not been a good couple weeks for him. The No Kings protests and all that, the LA riots, the tariffs, trade deals with China, just everything just kind of seems to be falling on the wayside for him. Which means America's not doing great. Which sucks. But this is what happens when we fucking elect incompetent leaders. But yeah, you got anything to say about this, Ortho?
I think that Trump is a piece of shit. Ultimately bad for the nation. Thankfully, he is showing people what you can do with nationalism. So I think Trump is the beginning of a nationalist populist movement, which gives me hope. And I think that Trump is just the beginning. I think people will stop falling for the fake Republican populists, though, or fake monoparty populists, I should say, like Trump. I think ultimately you're going to see a nationalistic shift. You're basically going to see, because of Trump and current situation, you're going to see the Democrats and Republicans die out soon, and you're going to see more of a nationalist party form on the right and center, and you're going to see more of a leftist globalist party form on the left to center left to left.
Well, globalism has always been a thing for, like, I think for like the neocons are basically the way that they see the world is probably through a more globalist lens.
Well, the thing is, like, communism, I don't think will ever happen in an industrialized state.
No, I'm saying the neoconservatives, like not. So, like, for them,
no, I think there will be a communist / socialist faction in the left that tries to arise, and you might see some a la European socialism on the left.
Yeah,
I don't think actual communists will rise because of this.
I think you're right about the European socialist is probably going to be something the left is going to lean into. Hopefully not. Hopefully not for me. Like, I do not want to go down the socialist like timeline. Like, I believe in welfare programs and I believe in all these things, but I just don't want to be a full-on socialist. It's just not the best economic incentives for, like, actually getting things produced. So for me, that would be the most detrimental thing that I could see. I could agree to a certain degree that there is some nationalism, but I think that the nationalism is rooted in the populist movement, not necessarily nationalism rising. I think the populism is just kind of doing that.
Well, Trump is a fake nationalist. He's not a member at the globalist table, right? So it is within his interest to align with nationalists and to use nepotism to secure positions for his family and his business interests. So he's a fake nationalist, and he's only really doing it for himself. He's not doing it for the nation.
Yeah,
I think
he's a populist. I wouldn't say he's necessarily a nationalist.
Well, that's the thing. I think people, because of Trump, people are going to see that you can organize as nationalists, that there is a chance to take back leadership of the nation as nationalists. And ultimately, that globalist population, that globalist sect on the left, I do think within the next 5 or 10 years that's going to die out, and it's going to lead to more European-style socialism taking over the left, because communism is always going to be extremely unpopular in America, right? Because of just our whole foundation exists on property rights. At the end of the day, that's the whole kit and caboodle with America. That's our whole shtick.
Yeah.
So unless some unique form of
socialism arises,
communism, or even for instance, like, I don't expect to see America ever go national socialist either.
Yeah.
Unless some unique form of American national socialism arises.
I just wouldn't see that arising with the essential needs of like you're right. Private property is always going to be like the distinguishing factor for America. Like that's something we pride ourselves in. That's not something that I think is ever going to leave the necessary like American spirit.
Well, see, I do. Let me walk that back a little bit. I do see National Socialism rising before communism in the U.S.
Yeah, but communism will never rise in the U.S. Like that's just never going to happen.
I think that there will eventually be a time where National Socialists, fascists, and capitalists make up a large portion of the electorate in the U.S. People who will find themselves identifying with that, and if not, it's going to be the European style socialists. Yeah. And that's where a lot of our future fighting is going to be between fascists and the capitalists.
Even with like European style socialists, you still have globalism being a thing. Like that's a thing. Like it's about the trade that they would want to engage with, and making world peace is essentially the goal. So like, it's just like we all want to make money. That's essentially the end goal for globalism, right? We all need to make money, so we're all going to try to make as much money as we can.
Well, it's not necessarily money, right? So I hate when people bitch about consumerism, or they say American culture is consumerism, or we're only consumerist because of factories and the modern world. No, our entire, as a species, consumerism is fundamental. Consuming is fundamental. Consumerism is fundamental to our societies.
Yeah, for sure. I would agree.
Even in Africa, even in Asia, right? You see these things where it's radically different. And what I'm saying is, you don't have to see it through a Eurocentric lens, right?
Yeah,
it's literally been about consumerism. Like the first caveman bodies are found with like really neatly crafted axes. And if it wasn't about consumerism, it would just be a fucking axe.
The fact of owning, yeah, for sure. And when I say making more money, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's making more money for like putting in pockets. It could also mean like better infrastructure for your shit, like more electricity in certain places, more houses being built. Like these are going to be like the things that every nation's trying to achieve, right? More money in their circulating, so their economy is booming, so that you get all these benefits. So like typically that's what I mean when it's about making more money. For me, at least.
Yeah, no, and what my point was saying, like capitalism, it's not necessarily about making more money. It's just a way to distribute resources. And I have to agree, and the National Socialists agree with capitalists, it is the best way so far we have found to distribute resources fairly.
Yeah.
Because like somebody in your chat mentioned, well, they did that old trope trying to say National Socialism is the same thing as communism. Well, what's the incentive to work harder? Under National Socialism, under capitalism, under even European style socialism, those who work harder have more resources and better access to necessities.
Yeah,
that's just a fact.
Yeah, but the incentivization isn't as high as, let's say, capitalism, right? Because there's a higher like peak for capitalism that you're not going to see within a socialist or a communist structure.
Yeah, because under capitalism, it's under pure capitalism. It's fuck you, pay me to buy it, buy
every man for themselves. Yeah, and that's why it's every man for themselves, and that's why I agree that like regulations are important. That's why I'm like not holistically like a capitalist, right? Like where I'm just like I believe in pure capitalism, but I am to a degree. It's about like I don't think like socialism or communism or capitalism can exist in purity. I think there has to be changes that have to be made in each of these economic systems, and they can sort of blend together, or and they can also operate apart from each other. But ultimately, like, there's gonna have to be a like watering down of each of these things, because the ideals are great, right? Like being able to make as much money as possible and using every resource available to me is fucking fantastic. But that obviously affects the general public to a high degree if I'm just doing that. So that would be my concern. That's why I would go towards like towards regulatory bodies and stuff like that to ensure that there's not a complete fuck over of the general public, but you're still making you're still incentivized to do all these things. And like the benefits that you can make through capitalism would be like doing socialist programs, right? Not necessarily becoming socialist, but doing socialist programs like welfare systems or like public housing, stuff like that, which would be beneficial for the underclass, which just lifts your people up and then basically circulates more money back into the system. So ultimately, it's like it's a self-feeding circle that you basically have to play with to get there. But I personally, I think America is doing a fairly good job, at least to a degree.
I tend to disagree, right, about capitalism. Because even regulated capitalism, it's self-cannibalistic. If you sit here and say the only reason for a corporation is to make profit for its investors, time after time, year after year, you're gonna end up with a shittier product. You're gonna end up with shitty customer service. You're gonna end up fucking over the customer. Yeah. We see that in fast food in the U.S. right now. I mean, I know Americans are fat, and that's a bad example, but that is where you're seeing it. You're starting to see it in cars. Honestly, actually, a better example, even farming equipment. Look at the way they treat farmers. You don't even have the right to repair on your shit.
Yeah, and that's because of the tech that's in it now, right? Like that shit's like, I agree with you. Capitalism does fuck with a lot of shit. And it
will eventually. You mentioned the tech, right? Because of the intellectual property and patents, it eventually will stifle innovation, especially. Go ahead, my bad.
I would say that's what I was gonna get to. That I think the issue with that would be the patents that are set about for a lot of proprietary technology. The issue that I see with that, though, is that these proprietary technologies are like held for like 7 years before they can like be used by like other companies that would have to shift the formula to a certain degree to basically get a different product, or not even wait that long. You can just be like, okay, I'm going to be less effective or I'm going to be more effective, and you could basically have a new product. Like, as long as you're not following the exact line that they are, you're pretty much good in patent law. But the issue with like the John Deere tractors and stuff like that was that the technology itself is like completely monopolized by these companies, right? Like, and that's kind of the thing that I think is a problem. Like, for me, like, that's one of the bigger issues with capitalism. When you have this monopolization of like these industries, that's where it's like, okay, this is where I need the regulatory bodies to step in and actually do something about this. Where not necessarily at every regulation do I agree, but in that case, yeah.
I didn't realize I was muted. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good.
I think ultimately, humanity is either going to go National Socialist or European style socialism in general, just because capitalism is self-cannibalizing. I think that capitalism has to be a key component but not the ideology itself, the basic fundamental aspect of capitalism being private property and private ownership.
Yeah, being as a backbone, not being the philosophy itself. Right.
Yeah, and I think
I
National
agree.
Socialism and European style socialism is what we need, because here's the thing, right?
Or social capitalism, like that also works as well.
Like,
right?
so National Socialism is social capitalism.
Well,
at the end of the day, there is very little difference.
There are distinctions where the social capitalism is about the entirety, not about like just the individuals in the nation.
Well, I mean that depends on where you, if you're a globalist or not.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That is a pretty big
nationalists.
distinction, though. Like that is going to be your key distinction.
But most social capitalists happen to be nationalists, and when you're a nationalist and you're a social capitalist, you are by default a nationalist.
By default, yeah, I would agree. But for
if you're a social capitalist and you're a globalist, you're by default a European style socialist. You know,
yeah. So you kind of fall into one or the other. It just depends on like how like deep you want to go into each one, or like what aspects you want to keep.
No ideology is a monolith. Just like no racial group.
Oh, for sure. I 100% agree. I always argue that none of these things exist in purity. Any country that argues they have the purest form of socialism or communism hasn't actually achieved it, right? Like it's always going to be a mixture of other economic styles to actually influence that. Otherwise you get a failing system, as we saw with like people that tried to implement communism but never get through the first step. So we see that fairly often, and I just don't think that it's gonna exist in the way that people want it to exist. I'm just a humongous fan of capitalism because it yields really good results when we're looking at like a scale, but that'd be the way that'd be my thing.
I really upset your chat, Bubba.
Yeah, well, it happens. It happens.
Polarizing figure.
Yeah.
And I gotta talk shit a little bit. That's kind of why I've been absent.
You're good, dude. I prefer to have people that don't agree with me on here than agree with me more often, just because like I can at least like, engage a lot more. When you agree with me, it's just like fuck.
You don't prefer me?
I actually like having you on, but that's because you ask inquisitive questions. It's not someone that's just yes manning me. I don't need a yes man. And like chat can yes man me, and I appreciate it when they do, but it's not. It doesn't like change the way that I'm talking about something. Where if I'm engaging with like, let's say you, Ortho, on your panel or on my panel, it's just I have to be a lot more focused into my ideals and be like, okay, this is the reason I believe this because of this, and then lay out an actual like thing where with my crowd I could just be like, I believe this, and they pretty much get the gist, right? I don't have to go into that much detail. And I like the detail-oriented shit.
Nice.
Actually, I don't even know if that's true. I think I'm always detail-oriented, but I do appreciate the other side's conversations as well, so.
Yeah, we need more people that are like what do you call it? What do you call it?
Like
on
orthodox?
the other side, but are not so much like retarded, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, that's why we use Discord, because it filters out a lot of people.
Speaking of which,
yeah, I need to get with you on OBS. I might need a tutorial to make because I know how to make this work, but I really would rather somebody who has experience, like learn from somebody who has experience. Like if I fuck around with it, I can figure it out, and I figured most of it out. But I just want to use OBS and not Streamlabs. So,
Michelle, it filters people out because on StreamYard, like people just click a link to join, right? And it's just like click the link, you're already in, right? With here, it's just like you got to click the link to the Discord and understand how Discord works. So it's like a litmus test of like, can you actually conversate with me?
From getting p-bombed.
Yeah, also that, because like it's just a lot more effort, right? And then you have people's like you have more information than you would with StreamYard because of their Discord account. So if like since you're like the moderator or the admin in your thing, like you can look through. So
I just know there's one thing we haven't done today on it.
What?
You're slacking.
What?
Like the stream. Subscribe.
Yeah, like
Please.
the stream, subscribe, do the thing.
And we have a pretty active Discord to join. It's called the Sanctum. Some of us are usually in there every day. We usually have rousing conversations. We need more people not to jump in there. Come on.
Yeah.
You're all welcome.
If you want to come yell at me for whatever reason, I'm in there pretty regularly.
I don't take nobody yelling at you on your own shit. Now you can't.
Oh
do
no,
that.
that's the whole point, man. I want people to actually challenge my ideas and fucking come yelling. Listen, I like a little schizo energy every now and again.
I got you, fam. No, we gotta have that for Rumble one day.
Yeah. We'll stream on Kick or something. We'll do the schizo shit. But
I got a lot of racist jokes ready for Kick.
But
I went quiet. Okay, keep going.
I honestly, I think we're at a pretty good wrap up spot. I like the only other thing was reading this Iran thing, the Obama deal, but that would take too long, so I don't want to sit here all night and read that. So I think we're at a good stopping point. So if you guys have any closing thoughts for the crowd or for me.
Yeah. Damn, Michelle, I need a blunt and a cigarette after that. That was some great foreplay. That's crazy.
Base.
I love leftist women.
Yep.
It's the hunt. It's the hunt that does it for me. Sorry, I just had to be a dickhead.
No, you're a good dude.
Yeah, no. Don't trust any government. Think for yourself. Like, be an actual free thinker, Sometimes maybe having an ideology that you're not supposed to have is a good thing.
Yeah, being a free thinker eventually gets you to become a national socialist.
Just don't take it to the other step.
80 years. Here's the thing, right? If a government you hate or a government you don't like, complain about, tells you not to have an ideology, maybe you should have that ideology.
Not
because
necessarily.
at the same time, like all the jokes and all the bullshit, any argument that most people gives, you're not a free thinker because you're a Nazi. Okay, what made me become a Nazi?
He admitted it. We got him, folks. We got him. He admitted it.
Oh, dude, I literally, I do it all the time.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not sorry.
Listen, FBI, if you're listening, I'm not associated. I'm not associated to this man. I
just want you to say. I just want you to know, Stan. Not Stan. Frank's on duty tonight. I just want you to know, Hornet deliberately funded. And isn't in strategized every aspect of the modern Nazi movement.
Nope, didn't do that. Liberal capitalism all the way, guys.
We met at Jekyll Island. He wants to fund me, so I usher.
Oh, all right. Sean, you got anything for the crowd?
Yeah, go fuck yourself.
Obeys. And thank you for everyone for coming. I really enjoyed the show. It's always nice to have Orthodox guy on here.
Thank you. It's always great to be here. It was awesome.
Yeah. But with that, I'm just gonna end it. I don't really have anything scheduled. We might have another debate. I have to contact people about that, but once that's out there, I'll probably let you guys know through either in the Discord or maybe on next cut, depending on when I get that figured out. Other than that, I guess I'll be seeing you guys next Tuesday.